Very good morning to you and welcome along to OTB AM on this Friday morning. A packed show for you between now and 9 o'clock or thereabouts. Myself and Owen have just been having a heated-ish debate, as much as it can be heated at 7:45 of a Friday morning. Good morning to you, Owen, first of all. Let's have a bit of civility before we sort of get about it.
I can't believe we're going to have this conversation on air, by the way.
Look, we were discussing sort of what you were doing for the week. You were suggesting that I might want to get myself out of town for the weekend, I think was how this all really came about. Was that a fair enough sort of accurate assumption?
Yeah, because if I wasn't working at the weekend, I probably would have done something similar.
But it turns out you are working, and the Pope is going to be in such close proximity. What's your stance on the Pope, first of all, the Pope's arrival into Dublin and the fact that we've... sorry, let me not make any judgments there, go for it.
What's your stance? Like, it's like prime time in the morning here. I've been accused of being prime time at times.
Oh, have you really? Right?
Well, it was
sort of a mini Pat Kenny, is that?
When I was grilling John Duggan about something.
That's right.
During the World Cup.
Yeah.
The point...
You're into it.
The point I was making is that, I'm in the office here till 6 o'clock. If the Pope's on Dame Street there at 6 o'clock tomorrow, I'm probably going to pop down and have a look, because it's this strange moment that it's like, this is unique. No matter what you think of the whole thing, it's quite a unique scenario to be in. I wouldn't be a massive fan of the whole thing, to be honest, but I wouldn't be... Like, I'm not going to stand there with a placard and say, Pope out sort of thing. Does that mean that I'm not ballsy enough to protest? Maybe it is. Maybe that says a lot more about my character than I even know myself. That I've got this quiet... Resentment is maybe a strong word, but it's probably a close enough term. But I'll still stand there and I'm like, this is weird, isn't it? The Pope is here. Look at all these people on the streets.
Yeah. And I mean, because you'll just be included in the number of... Yeah. When they read out on the 6-1 and other, obviously, credible news outlets are available. X number of 100,000 people turned out in the streets of Dublin today to greet the Pope, because that's how it'll be seen.
Like, I do need to clarify that the point I make, and I just clarify this. I said that if the Pope is on Dame Street just across the road, and I happen to be in the office and he's in the vicinity in and around the same time, it's like, it's on my doorstep. It's like, I may as well just go and have a look and almost see the people watching the Pope as much as anything else.
But I mean, the reality is that if somebody's driven sort of 5 hours from the other side of Achill Island to get there, you'll both be counted in the same number.
Yeah, and that's unfair, isn't it? That's the stark reality.
Unless you were to sort of boo loudly in his general direction or some
Do you think I should?
I think you should follow whatever you think is the right thing to do.
Well, yeah, like I'm getting the sense from your virtue signalling here that you can't go and be dissatisfied with the Pope if you're quiet.
What I'm getting at is that you, I think, are dissatisfied. That's why I tried to establish that to begin with. Your levels of dissatisfaction with the Pope's arrival, and you seem to be on that scale somewhere. But
without question, that the whole representation of the Catholic Church and all that it's not a great look. But
you're happy to go out and say, I mean, because essentially,
I don't think that makes me like.
Essentially, without protesting, you are saying welcome to Ireland.
Well, I disagree. I think you can go and view what's happening without giving a wide, open-armed sort of welcome to Ireland sort of thing.
Like you scowl at him or you frown at him. Like, how does that?
Well, I don't know, to be honest with you. I'll make sure I get my morals in order next time we have this conversation, Adrian. Sorry for letting you down. I
did try and signal straight away without virtue signaling straight away that wasn't where I was going with it. I was just trying to.
Well, you've...
Take away your rationale on.
You've shamed me suitably this morning, Adrian, and a very good morning to you.
I'm sure that it's not going to impact on your desire to go and check out the Pope, by the way.
Like, I guess my dream of becoming like one of a new age protester or something is dead in the water now. I thought I could have had a future.
Just look, all I'm saying is, if the thought even half strikes you that I might actually boo in this guy's general direction, like, go for it. Don't shy away from it. Don't be a shy protester.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling tomorrow at around 6 o'clock, and if I'm feeling the need to boo, then I'll go ahead and boo. And if I feel the need to stay quiet and watch what is happening, then I'll do that. But chances are, Adrian, I'm not going to be anywhere near it. So this is all a highly hypothetical situation.
We haven't got a clue. Right. Owen's, you may have picked up on this already, but Owen is sounding pretty hoarse this morning. His eyes are pretty red. You'll probably see that as well. You were sort of burning the candle late last night. There was an office company quiz last night in Copperfest Jacks, of all places.
Yeah, it's mostly fatigue, to be quite honest. I find the table quiz, you've got to be very tactical. Like, as the night goes on, naturally people get less and less tuned in to what's actually going on. But if you can just, stay a little bit safe out there, then suddenly you can pick up on a few opportunities that other
I don't know what
miss.
you mean.
As in, don't drink as much as other
right,
tables,
okay, I was
basically.
totally lost there.
It was a tactic that worked out pretty well for us last night, actually.
Well, it did. I mean, it did and it didn't. You didn't win, obviously,
Well, we tied for the win, and then there was a stupid tie-break question.
Yeah.
Adrian wrote a round for the quiz last night. He tried to become crappy quiz
Well,
master.
we took sort of crappy quiz. I mean, I failed at trying to be the crappy quiz master. Although a lot of people did say afterwards, there was a lot of people saying it was a tremendous quiz, super quiz, best quiz they ever saw. A lot of people saying
it was. You should actually take over the quiz writing duties on the.
No, I'm not really willing to do that. But what I am willing to do is to share some of the questions that we had from the company crappy quiz last night with our viewers this morning. I'm excited. You already know them. You know the questions. You know the answers. I'm assuming at this point.
Yeah, I do.
So we're going to share them with you, and we have some prizes to give away as well. I mean, we have a couple of tickets primarily to give away to our roadshow at Croke Park next Thursday. It's a pretty special show. Jim McGuinness is going to be there. James Horn is going to be there. Cora Staunton is going to be there. Aidan O'Shea is going to be there. I'm glad that graphic came up because I was starting to struggle at this stage. Peter Canavan, Keith Barr, Kieran McGeeney is going to be there as well. So it's a pretty stellar lineup. All in the company of Joe Malloy. That's 30th of August. It's next Thursday night, of course, to preview the All-Ireland football final between Dublin and Tyrone. You can get your tickets at offtheball.com/events, but you can also pick up a pair of tickets by staying tuned to us for the next hour and a little bit. And we're going to give you some of these questions. We haven't really set any strict rules as to who's actually going to win the pair of tickets. So it might be somebody who sends in the correct answer, and it might be just somebody who sends in an answer that's a bit of crack, because we do appreciate that. Obviously you're watching us on the internet, you might have the opportunity to sort of find out what some of these answers are, but we'll take all comers and we'll randomly pick one winner before the show is done. So there's 10 questions. We're going to get to them all, I think, Owen. Is that the plan? Get to them all between now and the end of the show?
I would be delighted for everybody to have the privilege of hearing all 10 questions.
Some of them are strict sport and some of them are sort of loosely in that kind of an area. So first one is in relation to the hurling last weekend. Question number 1 for your viewers' delectation this morning. The Limerick hurlers have been the story of the summer with their incredible All-Ireland win last weekend. They won the hearts of the nation, unless, of course, you're from Galway. One of the stars of that team is Cian Lynch. But the question number 1, is what is the colour of Cian's hurling helmet?
As opposed, it's a good question. It's one we did get right.
As opposed to...
Well, I don't know.
You started that sentence, I just thought...
I wasn't sure what you were referring to there, but yeah, it's a good question. I was just about to spurt out the answer there, and I just about held it in. So, like, obviously people can Google this.
Yeah, they can. I mean, that was the benefit, the added benefit that our audience has that the live audience last night didn't have, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so too.
So yeah, we've 10 questions over the course of the morning. Get your answers coming into us, and one lucky viewer is going to win a pair of tickets for Croke Park next week for the preview show for Dublin against Tyrone. So all that to come over the course of the show. And here's a bit of a flavour of what else is on the menu between now and 9 o'clock. We're going to get stuck into the sports pages, including an interesting story in relation to that Dublin Tyrone game. A wild rumour, as it says, but an interesting one nevertheless. We'll bring you that in just a couple of minutes' time. Paddy Tally is the new Down football manager. And just who is Paddy Tally? We're going to ask that question to Declan Hughes a little bit later in the show and get the thoughts of somebody who played under him, of course, the former Galway coach. We're going to hear from Conor McManus. Owen was chatting to Conor during the week. We're going to discuss Liverpool as well. Talk of a takeover there, or at least some sort of a stakeholder investment. We're going to get some more of those details before the show is done. And we'll also be hearing from Niall Quinn, who was in conversation with Maura Trasny-Callig at the Virgin Sport launch yesterday. So all of that good stuff to come between now and the end of the show. But first up, the newspapers.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie. Championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
Right now, we're going to kick off with the Irish Independent this morning. The back page here is the main picture that you'll see there is Katie Taylor at Fenway Park as she announces, it's all about Fenway Park these days, as she announces some upcoming bouts. WBA and IBF World Lightweight Champion Katie Taylor with a couple of other boxers there at Fenway Park. Let's not worry about them, it's Katie is our focus. But McLean must fizz or fizzle out. Says Niall Quinn. This is in relation to the Stoke player spat with a couple of his teammates half-time in their 3-0 defeat at the hands of Wigan during the week. So a lot of coverage of that today. Niall Quinn, as I said, was out in front of the media yesterday and saying that it kind of strikes me that this is one discussion that's broken down on sort of generational lines. Like McLean is an old school sort of studs in footballer who I think people who are a bit more old school about the game have a huge amount of time for. I can also see a lot of sort of modern footballers, particularly, and this might be the key point in this conversation, not having him on that very basis.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people not having him for a variety of reasons, but just breaking him down to the actual footballer that he is. Like, I think there is still a very modern role for James McLean in any football team, right? Like, I think that can we call it a regression in club form? I think it's fair to say that it is a regression. Isn't down to football moving in a brand new direction. I think it's more down to his own form, and I think he's just not living up to what he was even 3 years ago, and certainly not living up to what he was at the very start of his blistering Sunderland career. So he's right, Niall Quinn, that he does need to find a spark, a fizz, as he says, very, very soon. The whole spat thing, and I see Graham Souness is making the point from the same Virgin Media launch yesterday, that it shows a bit of passion in the team. Like, I'm not sure if you want your players to show passion via fighting with their teammates, but I guess it is some sort of pride in oneself, in results, in performances. Like, it's very hard.
Because you can argue the opposite too, right? You can say, listen, it's half time in the game, leave this until the game is done. Sort of, there's a correct way to challenge a behaviour that he sees as whatever among some of his teammates, maybe a lacking in desire or whatever it might be. That's kind of why I say it's not really so much to do with him as a player, but he's old school in his approach. Like, I can see why Graham Souness and Niall Quinn are kind of saying, oh, this is the sort of balls that Stoke City need.
Yeah, but like, one of the players in the spat was Ryan Shawcross. Like, if you ask me to name the top 5 old school footballers around at the moment in the Championship, Ryan Shawcross is probably going to be one of the people you pick out. So to think that, you know, Ryan Shawcross is like a new age sort of footballer who's got a thin skin and is sitting there cowering behind, I don't know, whatever sort of defence mechanism he has in a dressing room while James McLean is screaming at him is a nonsense idea. Like, this was a two-way street here. This was very much...
Three-way street, I think, by all
yeah, it was. The third player's name escapes me. Oh, it was the keeper.
Butland, is it?
Butland.
Yeah.
So, like, Butland as well, you would imagine is quite a fiery character. You can only judge by his body language sometimes if the wall isn't in the right position or something like that. But certainly Ryan Shawcross is a fiery character. It's not like James McLean is bullying teammates or anything here. This is just conflicting characters potentially, but also in a very passionate environment, which, you know, being bottom of the Championship or close to the bottom of the Championship creates.
Yeah. And if he starts to play well, as Quinn points out, all of that nonsense is sort of forgotten. And
well, all of that nonsense might be seen as an instigator for that. It's like, remember the dressing room spat? That was the moment that changed James McLean's season.
Turned Stoke season on. That's what happened there.
But the chances are that might not happen.
Also on the Irish Independent, Tyrone native Tally taking charge in Down is that story that we mentioned just a few moments ago. And Portrush surpasses expectations with open sellout. Writes Brian Keogh here that the 2019 British Open, which will be held at Royal Portrush in County Down, has already been sold out by the looks of things, which is, to be fair, not all that surprising, I guess, given that the enormity of the tournament coming to this island, but good news for them.
Absolutely, and I think the golfing summer next year is already something that people are looking forward to in terms of 2019 as a sporting year because of how Tiger has finished the season. Of course, we still have the Ryder Cup to negotiate before then, and if Tiger makes a US team, which I dare say he's probably going to get a wild card, then obviously that makes it the next best thing that we're going to have coming up. But certainly the discourse has all been around next year, Augusta 2019, and if Tiger gets himself in contention once again, it's like anybody who didn't buy a ticket for Portrush is like, damn it, it's on our doorstep, and I don't even have a ticket to watch one of the greatest sports people of all time tear it up on a course here in Ireland. It's great. It's perfect timing for Portrush to be hosting it.
Yeah, and Limerick, of course, and he's a huge... he'll be off to Adair next year.
2020.
2020. And he's a huge Limerick hurling fan, as we know.
Yeah, he said it was pretty neat, wasn't it, that they won the All-Ireland. And to be honest with you, it was pretty neat, Limerick winning the All-Ireland.
JP took him to a game at some point. We're not sure what game that was. The Irish Times sports section this morning leads with City All Boy Quinn takes a little pleasure in United's pain. So this is Niall Quinn with a nice old school photograph of him there, taking ironing his... seems to be back to front iron. His old Manchester City shirt, but he's pretty pleased that United are in the doldrums. I mean, I don't know if that's... I think we're getting a bit carried away with ourselves. We're saying
doldrums is a bit strong, isn't it?
I'm saying that clearly. Wiltshire ready for emotional Arsenal return. Celtic grew concession of another soft goal. This was the 1-1 in the Europa League last night. That's kind of a bit of a best flavour of what's going on there. Reflections on... Were you reading that 1979 piece, John O'Sullivan? Papal visit brings back sporting memories. Am I throwing that one at you?
Very briefly, it was just That was like the first year of Nicky Lauda's retirement. Mikey Sheehy scored 2-6 in an All-Ireland final when Kerry hammered Dublin. There was a couple of other things as well from the last year. Like it's really showing the impact of what this visit is happening when it's actually penetrating the sports pages. Like it's the last time the Pope was here, what was happening in the sporting agenda. I guess there's an interest in that. I read the piece anyway, so there clearly was an interest in that. Any bit of nostalgia, I think, kind of piques the interest.
I was 2. I remember it well.
Yeah. Did you go and support? Did you boo? Did you have a placard?
I did, absolutely. I scowled. I shot my nappy. I was that obsessed with the Pope. The Irish Examiner this morning.
Wearing nappies at 2. Is that a thing? I don't know, actually.
Yes, no, it is. Yeah.
Jeez,
I mean, thereabouts, yeah.
Right,
it's
okay.
not unheard of.
It was actually a genuine question.
That's fair enough.
I have no idea.
We're both novices at this on, that's fine. Game Changers, the headline on the front page of the Examiner here this morning. Niall Quinn is very enthused by Bazunu, Manchester City's new goalkeeper, is the splash in the front of the Irish Examiner this morning. Some reflections on the hurling as well. And Ronan O'Gara is excited by brilliant signing Joey Carberry inside. It's not yet the return on, as you know. I do love the Ronan O'Gara column in the Irish Examiner. I don't know if I'm assuming it'll be back next week.
You'd like to think so. It's the first weekend of the season next week.
Yeah, but I mean, it's, these deals sort of come and go, and when they go, you don't necessarily hear all that much about them.
It's a good point.
But Simon Lewis writes in the Irish Examiner that Ronan O'Gara believes Munster's summer capture of Ireland fly half Joey Carberry from Leinster is a brilliant signing, and the number 10 jersey is his to lose. In a statement I would have thought of the blindingly obvious. Yeah,
it's quite obvious. Just on that other story in the front of the Examiner there, the Bazunu thing, when he talks about game changer, he's obviously referring to how this might be the future for Irish players, and maybe he can reopen those floodgates to a certain extent. But I think it's also game changer in the sense that Gavin Bazunu is going to be allowed to complete his leaving cert next year and then go to Manchester City. Like, we've spoken quite a lot on the show over the past couple of years about how academies are not killing the soul of football, but they're also killing a lot of young players' dreams, that you're in there too early, you're not allowed to develop as a human before you're allowed to develop as a footballer, and actually completing his schooling is a necessary step for any human development, I guess. And it's great that Manchester City have that kind of ability to just say to him, listen, you go do your thing for a year and we'll catch up next year, sort of thing, which is a great step forward. And if more young Irish people could do that, who knows where they might go in the English game, because certainly when you look at all the best Irish players, like the best Irish player in the Premier League right now, Seamus Coleman, fully formed man almost, but when he went to England, so the older they're going to England, the better, I think, and his league round experience is key, and I guess having that leaving cert on the back burner as well is never a bad thing. Hard to see that it could become a template is the only difficulty. That it's probably due to a whole set of circumstances in terms of, and I'm guessing here, but in terms of how Manchester City are stocked at academy level or at underage level, that they don't need him. If they needed this guy, he'd probably be going over there. I mean, it's a set of circumstances that works out incredibly well for Gavin Bazunu, but I think on the flip side that it's probably an outlier as opposed to the rule, but fair play to him. Yeah, the Irish keeper for the next sort of quarter of a century right there. Yeah, let's put it down as a happy old 25 years there for Gavin. Right, that is the Irish Examiner this morning, and the back page of the Times Ireland edition this morning is a photograph there of Olive Foley, who was making a speech at the RDS yesterday as part of the World Gathering of Families this weekend. The widow, of course, is the former Munster and Ireland rugby legend Anthony Foley, who had some very moving words to say at that gathering yesterday, and Ronan O'Gara was there as well. An emotional Ronan O'Gara, it has to be said, at that event yesterday. Souness and Quinn vouched for McLean, so this is just more reflections on that press conference yesterday. Writes Gary Doyle. That is the Times Ireland edition this morning. The Examiner's done. The Racing Post in the bag. Potent West Brom can outshine Borough. This is the championship meeting tonight from quarter to kick-off there. And one to bring you, we mentioned this one from the Irish News this morning. If you just check out on the right-hand side there, I think as you look at it, McKenna, rumours going wild is the piece that's written here. It's a pretty good scoop, I think. I mean, I don't know if we call it scoop. It's a wild rumour, as the headline itself puts. Mickey Hart's become famous for pulling rabbits out of the hat, writes the article ahead of the All-Ireland finals, but the latest speculation would trump them all as he prepares to, he's sent out to Australia for the AFL player Conor McManus, who's set to hook up with the squad ahead of next weekend's All-Ireland final with Dublin. That's remarkable. That is remarkable. That is one hell of a rumour, one hell of a story if it turns out to be true. There's so many different ways to kind of think about this. First of all, is Conor McManus good enough to come straight back into an inter-county setup? B, is he good enough to play in an All-Ireland final? And C, imagine if he is, how would you feel if you're one of the squad members or one of the team members and you get dropped for Conor McManus, or you're not getting a game because of Conor McManus? How do you feel? Of course, everybody will feel great if it contributes to winning an All-Ireland. But you do suspect that the reason why they're bringing him back is whatever approach Tyrone are going to go with next week doesn't necessarily require somebody who's going to have to be that sharp after a season full of inter-county football. They want an athlete. They want somebody who is...
a bulldozer, essentially.
A bulldozer, or, stopping a bulldozer around the Dublin team. Yeah. So you look at some of the man-marking jobs, and I was just, it's fascinating thinking about it, because obviously Padraig Hampsey is Tyrone's best man-marker, so he'll probably be on Kieran Kilkenny. And then you're like, actually, the rest of the Dublin team are pretty good. So they've used up their best man-marker on Kieran Kilkenny, whose movement is so good, who could just bring him out to the wing. Tyrone, when you go down through the list of other man-markers, aren't amazing. The Kieran Kilkenny could have an amazing role in this game by doing nothing at all, by pulling Hampsey out of the game. So they're obviously trying to recruit as much as possible when it comes to setting up a good defensive system that will mark out a couple more Dublin players. Is Conor McManus one of those players? Well, we don't know, do we?
Yeah, it's the article talks about sort of the rabbits out of the hat that Mick Hart has pulled previously, the McMahons especially being utilised in the full back line and all this kind of thing. But I mean, it is slightly different. It's vastly different to that. Really, you said your middle point there was the three things about it were how he might be deployed as a player, but I think you're spot on to suggest that actually a player, any sort of element of him with ball in hand, I'm assuming if there's anything in this, that any element of him with ball in hand is just not really going to be a realistic thing. He's there to break up the play. Yeah,
the thing is though, all these AFL players that go down there to Australia, they have made their name by being good football players. They get to Australia because they're physically able to handle it and the scouts spot that. But the only reason they got any notoriety back home in Ireland is because they were good at football. I'm sure Conor McManus is one of the outstanding footballers in Tyrone as in terms of talent, but whether or not he's sharp enough is an entirely different
we've
question.
seen obviously players come back, high profile examples of players coming back from AFL, having played a bunch of times there. You've spent all your time trying to get used to a new style, a new way of playing, a new ball, a new style, all that sort of stuff, and then suddenly somebody throws you a round ball and they're like, right, go and do your stuff. That's why I'm suggesting that I don't think he's really coming back to play football.
No, it's
if he is, by the way, I'd be astonished if there's any truth in this.
Well, I wouldn't be astonished if there's any truth in it. If they've gone ahead and printed it, they must be pretty confident in...
I'll point you to the direction of the headline, Owen, which includes both words, rumours and wild. So,
Yeah,
it's a great story. It's just a wild rumour.
It is a great story. Obviously, when I saw it first, I was very, very surprised. But the next step of it actually coming through, who knows? It seems that there might be some truth in the idea that Tyrone has certainly looked into it.
Paddy Tally is the other story, in the Irish News this morning. Just confirmation that he's going to take over from Eamon Burns, who left the job earlier in the year after a pretty disappointing year from a down perspective, pretty disappointing few years from a down perspective, and that Paddy Tally is the new man in town.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
We'll discuss that later with Danny Hughes.
Yeah, big blow to Galway as well, losing Paddy Tally, so that'll be an interesting one next year. Front page of the Herald Sports section is Jose the wrong one for United. So this is Richard Dunn in his new column. He says he sees the end of the line for Mourinho. It's just a bad mix, he says, in his column, everything going on at Manchester United, and he sees no light at the end of the tunnel for the Portuguese manager. Back page of the Irish Daily Mail is £2 billion bid for COP. Abu Dhabi Sheikh held talk with Liverpool chief. So a cousin of Manchester City owner Sheikh Mansour has failed in a stunning £2 billion proposal to buy Liverpool. We don't quite know the truth in how far this whole bid got, but there was certainly some sort of conversation with John Henry or some of John Henry's minions.
Financial advisors, it seems like they'd managed to flew to New York to speak to FSG's financial advisors about some sort of speculative thing that, I don't know. It's all a bit loose. It's kind of... They were interested. They had £2 billion, which would be the record takeover fee. But there's some bizarre language about sort of no credibility about the bid being mooted. It's kind of weird when you're talking about £2 billion, like a record takeover, but yet there's no credibility about it.
It's almost as if they're throwing around £2 billion kind of nonchalantly.
Willy-nilly, I think is the phrase.
It will be the biggest takeover for a football club. And you would have thought that there would have been a bigger bid than £2 billion out there, but really buying a football club relatively isn't as expensive as one might think.
When you've got £2 billion knocking around, Yeah, and then the several more billion you're going to play for, particularly at clubs at that level, for players. Like you want to have good old deep pockets. Pockets want to be hitting your socks on is what's happening there.
Yeah, like to think that players can go around for 150 million pounds at the moment. You can get an actual club for 2 billion is there's something wrong there in the balance of things where one employee can. Back page of the Sun is same old Arsenal. Emery hasn't toughened up Gunners. So this is Tony Adams talking about Unai Emery, saying that he's seen the same mistakes that Arsene Wenger brought to the club with Unai Emery. Just a reminder, everybody, Unai Emery has played 2 Premier League games. One of them was against the Premier League champions Manchester City, and the other one was against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. But apparently it's same old Arsenal. So let's believe Tony Adams. He is the man of wisdom here, and my opinion on Unai Emery being the right man is clearly wrong. I stand corrected. It is just Arsene Wenger in disguise.
I'm astonished that Tony Adams doesn't come out and say, listen, this doesn't look great, but we're 2 games in, give him a chance.
Yes, like it's almost as if that like there's no such thing as a correct or false opinion, but it's very hard to argue against that theory that we are 2 games in. There is no need to panic just yet. They played 2 very, very good teams, and maybe just hold off on the whole comparing him to Arsene Wenger for just a little bit, Tony. But I stand corrected.
Maybe do something crazy like give him a season. I mean, something crazy like that.
You're like that is old school talking there. James McLean would love you as a football
Niall Quinn
manager.
is rubbing off me.
Back page of the Star is Jose's X Factor. Red flops facing the chop. So this looks like Matic and Valencia being pictured here on the back page. So he's actually expected to rush them back for Monday's visit of Tottenham. So he's also considering turning to Chris Smalling for that occasion. Alexis Sanchez could also be parachuted back into the team. So who's going to miss out? So Juan Mata, Anthony Martial, Andreas Pereira and Victor Lindelof, who all struggled at the Amex, are facing the chop. So there could be as many as 4 changes for Manchester United on Monday night against Spurs. Back page of The Guardian this morning is banned for 7 weeks. Ashton left with just 1 game to grab England autumn place. Chris Ashton, once again, a tip tackle. Myself and Ger were talking about this yesterday. Like, is it possible to just like be addicted to certain acts of violence on a rugby pitch? Like, because surely the punishments the officiating is so good comparatively in rugby to other sports. The officiating is sometimes so harsh, and there is very much a culture of teaching somebody a lesson, but there is also very much a culture of never learning your lesson. Like, what I don't know what Chris Ashton's problem is. Like, it's not quite easy to not perform a tip tackle.
I mean, I don't know, but it's
like there's almost,
short story.
But almost a strange addiction to the whole process of it.
I mean, look, absolutely. I don't know. It's impossible to know what happens here. That sort of ferociousness at the fever pitch of a game and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, none of that excuses doing that. I haven't seen the tackle, but it probably is fast track. He says facetiously to being the England captain, you would assume.
Yeah, like
that sort of thuggery is exactly what they're after.
If England won the World Cup next year with Danny Cipriani, Chris Ashton and Dylan Hartley in their team, with Eddie Jones as head coach, would that be the most dislikable sports team that's ever won anything?
I mean, then what you'd have is that everybody starts sort of general thuggery. That's the way it works, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they'd be trailblazers.
We asked you, beautiful viewers, a bit earlier on. We've got 10 questions coming at you between now and the end of the show. We're giving you the first question. You've got your opportunity to get in and answer any of these questions with either the correct answer, the wrong answer, or a funny answer, or some sort of an observation. We'll put you in the hat to win a couple of tickets for our roadshow at Croke Park next Thursday night by way of previewing Dublin Tyrone in the All-Ireland football final. We asked you earlier on from the hurling final last weekend, Cian Lynch's hurling helmet is what colour? We had Kieran Ahern. Well done, Kieran. He says white. He's on Twitter this morning. Kevin Kane also says white. And Kevin also added that on the idea of James McLean being a potential future Irish captain. No, he's an awful player. Kevin Kane's assessment. Probably one of our better players at the minute.
Yeah, like it's very hard to argue against either of those points that he's probably not what would be perceived as a good enough footballer to be captain of his national team. Yeah. But yeah, there is also the case in point that there's not a hell of a lot else
there's nothing doing.
Like, Robbie Brady is the next Ireland captain. He is the Ireland captain. It's like, it's hard to see James McLean wrestling that away from him. After Seamus Coleman, that
David Myler, obviously.
Well, Myler and Coleman are of a similar age, so once Coleman's done, it's got to be Robbie Brady. And then
come on now.
Let's talk about the significant captain. The real captain is David Myler.
Kevin and Kieran, well done. You're in the hat for that. Question 2. Ireland's produced some amazingly talented sports people who've achieved unprecedented success over the last decade. Incredible achievements like world boxing champions, major golf champions and Major League Soccer champions. So, naturally, the question on the back of that is rank the following in order of most Twitter followers. Padraig Harrington, Katie Taylor and Robbie Keane's wife Claudine. So just rank those in order of their Twitter followers. Now, I know I appreciate you've got the opportunity to go and look that up, but look, as I said, we know that, we're aware of it. Send us in your answers and you'll be in the hat to win a pair of those tickets. Lots still to come on the show. We're going to first of all hear from Darren in just a few moments. He's going to bring us up to speed with everything that's happening in the world of live sport today. But before all of that, the Golf Weekly geeks were out and about on the road last night. They were at McGurk's Golf Store in Naas. Obviously, the chat turned to Tiger Woods.
Do we now kind of make him more likely to win a major than not win a major?
If he wins another major, if he does, it'll be like one. He's not going to get to Jack's record. That's gone. That's gone.
Yeah.
There's far too many good players out there now who are not scared of Tiger, no matter, even if they're playing with him on the final day. Will he win a normal event? Yes, I definitely think so. I think he'll get it into his head. I said it before, he made a huge mistake in St Andrews, or not St Andrews, in Carnoustie, should I say, on the 11th hole when he hit the person and he got out of his routine and he saw the leaderboard and he was in the lead and blah, blah, blah. He just, he made a mistake. But will he make that mistake again? I don't think so. I think he can win, as I said to you, another tournament, but maybe one more major if he gets lucky, depending on the golf course.
Okay. Is Augusta the most likely?
I would have said a British Open is more likely. Where you can hit that 2-iron off the tee like he did in Carnoustie and keep it in play and play to his strengths. I don't think Augusta's becoming a long hitter's golf course. They keep on moving the tee boxes back, and it won't suit Tiger.
Yeah, Tiger Woods, is he going to win another major? Peter Lowry thinks he's going to win one. I kind of think that, I don't think he's going to reach Jack's level. He's got another 4 to win to sort of equal him.
Beating Phil Mickelson in Vegas is another major.
I can see him. You would feel that if he wins one, he'll win more than one. I think 4 is probably a bridge too far, but I do think if he wins one, he might win more than one.
Do you think so? Do you think that he's just going to go...
Well, he's back, isn't he? So...
It's like, back. How purple can the patch get, is what I would ask. Is this peak return of Tiger, what we've witnessed over the past couple of weeks, is there not a growing suspicion that it might be? Like, obviously the field around him has been quite strong.
Yeah.
And when you look at the likes of Brooks Koepka going from strength to strength.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like double golden for Brooks Koepka.
Yeah, it almost seems that Tiger needs to go to another level again, that if he's fully back, which, a lot of people would suggest that he is, then there is every possibility he doesn't win that major because the field around him is so strong. Like, you even look at the likes of Jordan Spieth and Rory McIlroy, who might re-find some scintillating form at some point next summer. I'm not saying that they were completely terrible this year, because they weren't. But, like, you look at the likes of Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka, there's a huge cohort around them as well who can challenge for majors, and you do suspect that Tiger just needs to go up another gear, last gear to win.
I don't know, he's not far off it, right? Like,
he's not far off it.
He's right there, is what you'd say.
That in itself is an incredible achievement. The fact that we're even having a conversation about Tiger winning another major.
2 of the most recent majors, he was right there.
Yeah.
Like, so he only has to reach out and touch it, so we'll see how that pans out. Like, Brooks Koepka does strike me that he's sort of talking about afterwards, after the PGA, sort of this chip in his shoulder, but he's now won a major with Tiger Woods competing at the top end of the field to do that. The money is back in the game because Tiger's there, so that's another win. And he also has everybody talks about Tiger the morning after his major win. Like, that's ready-made chip on the shoulder stuff. Like, it's win-win-win for him.
Yeah, and he also doesn't care about anybody.
That's my hot take.
He's also a robot. If you peel back Brooks Koepka's skin, all he'd get is metal.
It would be the greatest comeback in sport, though, if Tiger was to actually go and win another major.
Yeah.
From where he came from to, the DUI, to those really harrowing images of just a broken Tiger Woods, back pain, struggling with painkillers, to actually be a major winner. be up there with the greatest comeback in sports, surely.
Darren, what have you got for us?
We actually will start with the golf, and Padraig Harrington 2 shots off the lead now on day 2 of the Czech Masters. Yesterday, an opening round of 66 for the Dubliner. A birdie on the first, a dream start. He climbed to 7 under. A bogey then saw him drop back to 6 under. 8 under the lead. 5 players tied for top spot at the moment. Gavin Moynihan and Paul McBride among the afternoon starters today. They'll resume from 2 under par and level par respectively. Brendan Rodgers felt mistakes cost his side dearly last night. Celtic had to settle for a 1-1 draw away to Saduva in the first leg of their Europa League playoff. An early goal from Oliver Nitcham should have put Celtic in control, but then a response from Ovidius Verbicas brought the home side back into it. The Hoops return home though with a vital away goal, but Rodgers knows they need to be much better.
I felt for the supporters this evening, to travel all the way out here to Lithuania, all the effort and commitment they've had to come and support the team, for us to play with that quality, and it was disappointing really. Made a great start. How we wanted to start the game quickly and get a goal, European goal away from home, which was perfect. But yet another soft goal, but go with the second leg next week, get the job done, and like I say, look to get into the group stages.
It was a bad night for Burnley. Their manager Sean Dyche left fuming with the referee. His side lost 3-1 at Olympiacos in the Europa League last night. Not happy with Ben Gibson showing a red card for a handball in the second half of their playoff tie first leg. While a cousin of the Manchester City owner Sheikh Mansour has failed in a $2 million bid to buy Liverpool, Sheikh Khaled bin Zayed Al Nahyan approached representatives of the Reds owners last year to discuss a potential sale. They made a $2 billion offer that would have constituted the most expensive takeover in football history. Miles and miles away from what FSG Group paid for Liverpool back in October 2010. That deal worth £300 million at the time. Now, a Liverpool spokesman said FSG have been clear and consistent that the club is not for sale, but what the ownership has said again clearly and consistently is that under the right terms and conditions, we would consider taking on a minority investor if such a partnership was to further our commercial interests in specific marketplaces and in line with the continued development and growth of the club and of the team. Here at home, the second round of the FAI Cup takes centre stage later. With 7 games down for decision, holders Cork City host non-league Maynooth University, Derry City and St Pat's meet in what will be a repeat of the 2014 final. The Saints hoping for a similar outcome in that one. Shamrock Rovers will be relegated to the role of spectators. They were knocked out by Drogheda. Drogs at home to Waterford tonight, while Premier Division leaders Dundalk host Finn Harps. It's Bows against Galway, and Limerick and Cabinteely meet at the Markets Field. First Division leaders UCD are away to CIE Ranch. Well, Jason Smith stormed to victory in the T13 100 metres to secure his second gold medal at the World Para-Athletics European Championships in Berlin. The Derry sprinter set a new championship record in the heats, 10.86. He bettered that then in the final, 10.66. He broke that record. To put those achievements into context, that is an incredible 19th gold medal for the Derry man at a major event. He's now the reigning 100 metres champion at Olympic, world and European level. Well, excitement building ahead of the TG Carr All-Ireland Senior Football Ladies semi-finals. Dr Hyde Park in Roscommon, the venue for a double header this weekend. Cork looking to get back into the final after being knocked out of the competition at the last 4 stage last year. They go head to head and lock horns with Donegal. The defending champions Dublin, Galway standing in their way from the final. While one championship club has given a new meaning to the term "till I die," Brentford have become one of the first clubs in England to agree a deal with an official funeral partner. G. Saville & Son Funeral Directors will offer fans a bespoke coffin in club colours and sporting the Brentford badge as part of the deal. The club's announcement kind of surprised people. It's Brentford Till I Die, complete with a coffin emoji.
Oh, gee. Brentford Till I Die, Brentford When I Die.
Yeah, to be fair, it's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I guess it is.
I mean, I get the grimness of it. It's grim as hell.
It's pretty grim.
Yeah,
it's certainly it's certainly a 360 view of where Brentford should be in your life. So yeah, well done to them. It's going for the afterlife is always a good policy, isn't it?
Andy Dunleavy not a bit impressed with our conversation earlier on lads. It's a sports show. I'm assuming he was talking about our pub conversation.
I thought it was a disgraceful start to the show, Adrian.
Darragh O'Toole on YouTube, Lynch's helmet is white, he said, so that was in relation to the early question we asked. Lots of other good stuff coming through on YouTube there. Gavin Murray says Taylor Harrington, Claudine Keane, which is the correct format of those, sequence of those Twitter followers. Magnolia guesses Porrick McGuinness on Facebook. I'm not sure I've ever seen a magnolia coloured helmet, I have to say. We'll ask you some more of those questions upcoming, but before all of that, the announcement. Thanks, Darren, by the way.
Thank you, Adrian.
Announcement, confirmation overnight that Paddy Tally is going to become the new Down coach. He was ratified yesterday evening. He's left his role with Galway, obviously. Danny Hughes, I'm delighted to say, is joins us on the line. Morning to you, Danny.
Morning.
Thanks.
How are you?
Very good. Thanks a lot for taking the call. You worked with him, obviously, during the James McCartan reign, I think, at Down. Best coach I ever played under, Danny, was the quote that we had from you at the time. What makes this guy so special?
I think his relationship with players is very much a big part of Paddy. He there's a great emphasis on the football as well, which is always, from a player's perspective, it's always something that most players would relish when they go to training, is the fact that the cones might be out, but the balls are also there as well. And I suppose that's a big thing from a player perspective, and it's not just, running drills for the sake of drills and stuff like that. But no, I think his relationship with players is probably Paddy's strongest point. You feel very easy in his company. You feel that you can have a chat with him, very honest one, and he doesn't make promises that he doesn't keep. He's just very, very honest. If you're not, no matter how things are going, he'll always have your best interests at heart. So he's a very honest guy and very professional. He's big into his culture of the team, attitude, and giving players what they need to succeed as opposed to what they want to succeed. So I suppose that's the main things I would say about Paddy.
We might loop back on some of that in a little bit, but just like it does strike me as you're talking there about the various traits that he has. Like, they're going to be challenged in a much more significant way now that he's stepping into a senior inter-county role, in terms of that trust of the squad, in terms of making promises that he's got to keep. Like, suddenly when you're the main man in that dynamic, it challenges those things in a way that probably it doesn't when you're a selector on the team.
Well, that's true. I suppose he's taken as a number one. He's taken St Mary's College to an unlikely Sigerson Cup. So, yes, albeit he has been a number two in a lot of the places that he's been, with Down, with Galway, with Derry and Tyrone. But success has followed him, or relative success anyway has followed him in those number two roles. And I think he's, Paddy's 45 now. He's in the prime probably of his coaching career, and this is a great opportunity. I feel it's a great opportunity as a down man that he takes over a team that's sitting, I suppose, after getting relegated to Division 3, not in great shape, to be honest, and players that are either turning down the invitation to play for the county or opting to leave. So I think Paddy will go a long way to arresting all those things and to developing a real good attitude in the squad and a good feeling as well, because the Down supporters have, we've been without medals and trophies for a significant period of time. Yes, we went to an All-Ireland final in 2010 and we were very competitive in Division 1 for a good couple of years after that. But unfortunately, things have deteriorated, and unfortunately, the good feeling around the place at that time wasn't built on, and now hopefully we can start to build on this with this appointment.
It's interesting, a lot of the things you say there, Danny, because I think the perception of Paddy Tally has been quite a cold one, that he's an excellent coach, excellent at drilling his players and getting a system in place that can sustain itself in modern Gaelic football. Galway, obviously, a perfect example. But from the way you're talking, it's almost as if he's going to be perfectly suited to being a manager, because I haven't heard somebody really saying it in as much detail as you've said it there, that he's such a good people person, and changing that attitude is going to be the thing that he brings most to Donegal, rather than a better system like he brought to Galway over the past year.
Well, listen, of course he's got the tactical nous, and he's, the modern way of football is, I suppose, is different than even when I played. You've got defensive formations and whatnot, and people will say about Galway being defensive and stuff during the year. Up until 53 minutes when they played Dublin, they were still only 3 points behind, having missed a penalty and having not taken their chances in the first half. So, there's an argument there that Galway, the decision-making on the day was poor. And they were in a semi-final of an All-Ireland, and they learned from that. But, from a people's and a man management perspective, he is, Paddy is a very ambitious fella as well. He wouldn't have taken name teams. He wouldn't take on name gigs as a number 2 if he wasn't ambitious. He's always looking to learn. He's got a good backroom team in there as well. So this is a challenge for him. But I've no doubt that he can take on this challenge and win it. There was myself and 4 other individuals involved in getting him appointed. So we as a group, as a committee, wouldn't have appointed him if we didn't feel that he was up to the job. I more than believe that he is up to the job. I'm more confident than I've ever been that Down will be, within 3 years, Down could be very competitive again once more in Ulster, which is very important, and hopefully playing Division 1 football. So there's no doubt that Down, the free-flowing game, the make it up as you go along, will be more structured. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that Down will score, and they've always had that wee bit of class going forward. So I don't see how Paddy can't build on all those, I suppose, genetic characteristics of Down footballers, and just make them very, very competitive.
Was that a straightforward process, Danny? We weren't aware actually that you were involved in the process. Was it straightforward enough? Because there would have been. We actually had Stephen Poacher on a few weeks ago. We were sort of half facetiously suggesting to him that he'd be involved there somewhere along the line. There's some past players, I'm sure, who would have been interested in it as well. So, yeah, was that a straightforward process?
You see, I suppose, to be fair to the Down County Board, I've been critical of them in the past, and maybe it was a smart move on their behalf as an ex-player, as somebody had been critical, saying, right, you think you can do any better, here you go. So maybe it was very clever on their behalf to do that, but I do believe that things should be done professionally, done the right. I understand some of the people involved were very, very vocal in their ambitions to become Down manager. And they were very bullish about it. But early in the process, we, as a committee, I suppose, identified the type of people that we wanted to take over Down. And Paddy fitted that criteria brilliantly, and obviously he was involved in Galway, and you have to respect Galway, and you have to respect Paddy as an individual. We couldn't talk to him, we wouldn't talk to him until I suppose he had made decisions with Galway and talked to Kevin Walsh and seen what the lay of the land was there. When I suppose when Paddy was making his mind up, then I suppose we could go and talk to him and have a chat and get things done pretty quickly. But as I say, I personally, my own personal preference was not. I don't think if you're going to appoint a manager, you should headhunt the man that you want. I think interviews and flirting with other people really doesn't do you any good in the long term. So so it was a difficult process. You're taking a lot of risks with it, but it's something I enjoyed, and it's something that I was very clear and very focused on, and making sure we got the right person and I think we've done that.
What sort of traits were you looking at, Danny, in that regard? Because if you look at Down football, obviously, and you've already pointed out that they've come in for some criticism over the last couple of years. There was obviously a big defeat to Donegal in Ulster this year. They lost to Cavan. I know there was an Ulster final last year, but it felt almost like an outlier for Down over the last few years. So in that context, what sort of character or what sort of manager were you looking for?
Well, I think we're looking at somebody that will go about their business in a very professional manner. There's somebody that will, will understand the culture Down, which Paddy does because he was involved. I suppose that, if we had won an All-Ireland, he would have become an honorary Down citizen, I would have said that. But at the end of the day, we were looking at somebody who's very, very professional, has had success behind him, which he has, and goes about their business in a very low-key but yet professional manner. I suppose everybody looks to the Dublin model, the Jim Gavin model, and sees, how can you raise the bar in their own county, and I would always think that Dublin is the bar. Other teams, yes, are getting there. Donegal have got there in the past and stuff like that, and Tyrone, of course. You look at what Mickey Hart's done this year. It's really remarkable what he's done as well. So the bar is there in Ulster, the bar is there in Ireland, and I believe that Paddy Tally knows where that bar is, and I believe that they can achieve that as long as players buy in. And I believe he's the best man manager to make sure that we don't hemorrhage any more players, that we don't lose players to America or London, and that we can put in professional, professional backgrounds there with the wider team to make sure that the players have everything they need to succeed, because it's not just as simple now as turning up at training, and doing your training. There's a lot of stuff there in the background, like rehabilitation, prehabilitation, a lot of medical stuff and science stuff that needs done, GPS, all that kind of stuff. So Paddy's very au fait with all that new way of coaching, new way of managing. So that's really what we're looking for. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's definitely something that's based around culture, discipline, and ultimately success, and wanting to be involved in down football. So Paddy fitted all that criteria for me from early on. So to be fair to the Down County Board, they give us a free rein to go and get the best person we can, and I have to commend them. They were very supportive the whole way through, So, if there's anything that's good to come out of that, is the fact that they have shown this willingness to engage in people that's not yes men, that that they're prepared to hand over responsibility to others. So, I definitely thought that was a good thing,
Yeah, Benny Coulter looks like he's going to be involved in the setup as well, Danny. What's he? Is he a sort of man who's accustomed perfectly to going into an intercounty setup? It looks like he's going to learn a bit from Paddy Tally, surely. I'm sure most people would. Is he cut out for it, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask, for the big, tough intercounty setup?
Benny's a coaching officer with Down at the minute, so he's well aware of the players that are in Down. He's also been to be fair, through my whole career, he's been our best player, most iconic player. He's played for Ireland, represented Ulster, Ireland, without a doubt, Benny is a name. Benny Coulter is a name synonymous with Down football in the modern time. So I think it's a tip of the hat to him. It's a tip of the hat to our era that's come through as well, and that modern modern way of thinking about football. Benny's also, I suppose, manager of his own club in Mirrabridge, and he'll probably have to step away, but he'll be well aware of the players that's throughout the county, and the players that's coming through as well, to be fair, from minor to under 20. So he's got a great knowledge of football, and again, I think Benny's always been a fan favourite as well there. So I think it's a tip of the hat to him, and as I definitely, I think it's a very positive thing that he's involved as well. And then you've got Gavin McGuinness, who led Tyrone club team Moy to the intermediate club final as winners last year, and Stephen Bailey. So you've got a great diverse coaching background there, and there's a lot of other stuff going on in the background that will hopefully make Down a much more competitive and better team.
Yeah, before we let you go, Danny, we do want to ask you obviously about the big game next weekend. Some wild rumours, as they're being reported, as that Conor McManus, I don't know if you've seen these, but that Mickey Hart's been in contact with Conor McManus, and he's prepared to come back from the AFL to get involved with this game next weekend. I mean, I don't know, wild rumours are they described, and potentially that's the way it just plays out. But are you giving Tyrone any shake in this game?
Well, as for the rumour one, I suppose Conor McManus, unless Mickey Hart came out and said, yes, I've contacted him and he's willing to come back, I would take it with a pinch of salt for a couple of reasons. One, if he did come back, how would that go down in the wider panel? I would think
not
that
well, I'd
somebody
say.
that's pushing hard in the wider panel would be a bit aghast to think that somebody is coming home to help them out. But listen, it's not without the realms of possibility given Stephen O'Neill in 08 and stuff like that. So do I give Tyrone a chance? Tyrone would need to have an exceptional offensive tactic up their sleeve, which I think they will need to. I think in 05 and 07 they put in a really, really good couple of defensive tactics to negate obviously the Donegues, the Walshes of that era and stuff like that. So they're going to have to come up with something offensively. That's the first thing. And the second thing is Dublin need to have a bit of an off day as well, I feel, because how can you question this Dublin team at this stage? 3 All-Irelands going for 4 in a row. They have proved that there's a really strong bench there as well. Boys that are coming off the bench, All-Ireland winners like Kevin McManus, Paul Flynn. Like, they have a serious backroom, back up there to come through. So how can you question Dublin at this stage? And I think the 4 in a row is coming, and it could be 5 and 6.
Yeah.
In the next couple of years. So listen, you're not gonna lose out of watching Dublin play football. They do play football in a brilliant way, but from a hope perspective, of course, from a northern perspective, you will want Tyrone to win. But football is not going to be any the worse for Dublin winning because of the way they play. So I think it's all Dublin. If I was to say there's a 65-70% chance of Dublin winning, that's where I put Tyrone's chances. But it definitely will be more competitive and closer than it was in last year's semi-final. But I would say Dublin by 4 or 5.
Danny, thanks a million for taking the call.
No problem.
Cheers. Danny Hughes on the line there, on foot of that, a confirmation that Paddy Tally is going to take the down job, and also his preview of Dublin Tyrone. And we're going to chat to Kevin Walsh about both of those topics as well. Around about 9 o'clock this morning, or a little bit afterwards. So that the Galway manager, of course. So he'll have some very recent experience, obviously, with playing the Dubs, and also I'm sure we'll have a word or two about Paddy Tally. So all of that to come before the end of the show. A couple of questions that we're going to get moving on here. We mentioned that we the company crappy quiz last night, and we've already brought a couple of questions your way. We've had a load of interaction on them, Owen. People, generally sort of guessing correctly that it's Katie Taylor, Patrick Harrington, and then Claudine Keane in the list of
how did they manage to guess that?
Twitter followers. That was on that. Owen was one of them on Twitter, fittingly enough, who had the correct answer to that. So good morning to you, Owen, and well done. Question number 3. We're all very excited, Owen, about the return of the international football next month. We can't wait to see Ireland get agonisingly close to qualifying for another major tournament before falling flat on our face with a hammering by Switzerland or Andorra or some other major footballing nation. So naturally this question is about more successful days. Euro 2012 specifically, Ireland were thumped by all comers that summer, but which off-the-ball pundit was sent off in the final game against Italy? Which off-the-ball pundit lashed out in that final game against Italy? And fair play to him for doing it.
It's not John Giles, is my hint.
That is a good hint, and it is not him. So that's question 3. Get your answers in on that. We've a pair of tickets up for the Roadshow Dublin Tyrone previews. You can see on your screens there, offtheball.com/events if you're looking to get your hands on some tickets. Not many left at this stage, so get on there and get some tickets. And fairly amazing lineup, as you can see if you're watching on any of the visual channels this morning. Jim McGuinness, James Horan, Cora Staunton, Kieran McGeeney, Aidan O'Shea, Peter Canavan for the Tyrone side, and Keith Barr on the Dublin side as well. So that is the lineup for Croke Park on next Thursday. That was question 3. Get your answers in. Correct, wrong, funny, whatever you're having yourself. We'll put you all in the hat for a pair of tickets for that. Question 4. We might as well give question 4 while we're at it.
May as well.
Connacht is a little known town off the coast of Roscommon, who are mainly known for their ginger beards, pints of hooker, and of course for playing rugby. But the question is, who's the new Connacht rugby head coach? That is question number 4 on the company crappy quiz last night.
Yeah.
I did say we had a bunch of interaction on this on. I wasn't lying about that.
Roscommon people would be highly offended by that question.
It was actually endorsing off the coast of Roscommon.
Yeah. Well, does Roscommon? I was about to say Roscommon doesn't have a coast. It does have a little coast, doesn't it? And that's offensive to Roscommon, isn't it?
Roscommon doesn't have any coast.
Does it not?
No.
Or is it Leitrim that has a little bit of coast?
Leitrim, I'd say, would have a little bit squeezing out there between Donegal and
One of Roscommon or Leitrim has a little bit of coast.
Mayo. Fairly sure Roscommon has no coast. I mean, I'm going out on a limb there, but...
No coast, yeah. Sorry, that's
Tommy Rooney has... Breaking news. Tommy Rooney, producer Tommy, has just confirmed that Roscommon has no coast. News just in. We'll bring you more on that as we get it. Darragh O'Toole on YouTube says, Friday quiz, yes. Along with a couple of answers. Gavin Murray correctly guesses the order there of the Twitter followers. Darragh was also back on then to say Adrian Barry is champ for 1 week and he's now an SJW, sweet mother of God.
Yes,
we had to Google SJW.
SJW.
We had to Google that.
What? Who had to Google it?
Well, I had to Google it.
You had to Google what an SJW... Well, you are very much an SJW for telling me that I can't go and view something that I don't endorse.
Yeah, I stand by that. Social justice warrior, by the way, is what SJW is.
You've informed nobody of that. Everybody's aware of what that is. You've informed yourself, I guess, which is the most important thing.
Darragh was also tickled by... he said afterwards, he said, listen, it's all good. Champ saying that he's never seen a Magnolia helmet before has made his morning so far. So, I mean, it swings and roundabouts.
Do you think... it's obviously a big crappy quiz this evening. Do you think you're going to defend your crown and become the champ?
Look, I think that I've had 2 good weeks in the chair.
Coy.
2 good weeks. So whatever happens is bonus surgery at this stage.
You're a Q2er, you're an SJW, and you've never seen a Magnolia helmet.
Chronic on YouTube also says he's always been an SJW with plenty of fake outrage and virtue signalling to boot.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Yes to the fake outrage. Thank you very much. Please, faux outrage is the correct term.
Thanks for your comment.
Acceptable.
You're a bollocks, but thanks for your comment. I mean, I don't know. Is that maybe that's faux outrage? Darragh O'Toole endorses that point. So they're just having a bit of a back and forth. Let's not bring any more of that conversation between the two lads on YouTube. It's got a little bit out of hand. There are Les 2 questions on the quiz. We're going to talk to Kevin Walsh in about 15 minutes thereabouts. We're going to talk to him about preview of that Dublin Tyrone game and also get his thoughts on Paddy Tally as well. So that is to come. I should mention that OTB AM is live with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. So keep your comments coming into us, abusive or otherwise. But next up, Monaghan's Conor McManus was one of the stars of the summer as Monaghan reached All-Ireland semis. He was named as the PwC GPA Player of the Month for July, and as such, Owen caught up with him during the week.
Nearly every day you go out, you're expected to be man-marked. That's just how it is. So, you know, the semi-final against Tyrone was no different. I suppose Tyrone's system is different to maybe other teams, whereby, you know, they play with a double sweeper, you know, a lot of the time, and space can be at a premium. But, you know, as I say, every day you go out, you're expected to be man-marked. So the Tyrone semi-final was no different, really, you know.
So when you say a different system, you mean if you got a little bit of a break clear from Hampsey, suddenly Colin Kavanagh was standing in front of you?
Well, that's it, and that's how they operate. I think we might have had a goal chance at one stage in the first half, had got clear, and then I think it might have been Matty down there, somebody had come back to provide that cover, and that's the way Tyrone operate, you know. They play with men back all the time. So as I say, you're man-marked in every game. You know, so it's no different from any other game. It's just that sometimes Tyrone play with more defensive nature than other teams, you know.
Are man markers or defenders in general allowed to get away with a little bit more at the moment? The referees are letting the game flow a little bit too much at the moment?
Yeah, possibly. As a forward, I'm always going to say that anyway. If you ask our defenders, they're probably not going to agree. So it just all depends on what end of the field you're in. Look, I suppose referees have a tough job. Probably need more help from sideline officials, umpires, whatnot, and I think that would be a big help to them.
Yeah, I think that was particularly evident on that afternoon in Croke Park. Like, I'm not asking you to bash the referee here or anything, because it's kind of all in the past at this point, but you do get the sense, particularly from that afternoon in Croke Park, that a second referee would have been very, very beneficial.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to come up here and criticise referees. You always feel after games that the decisions could have went your way and would make the difference, but you know, I think Malachy might have spoken about it after the game, and as I say, I'm not going to go into that here now, because ultimately we had a semi-final there, we had a final place up for grabs and didn't perform well enough to win the game, and yet, as I said, still probably could have snuck a result and we have to take that on the chin, you know.
Yeah, there was one comment I saw only this morning, actually. I think it went under the radar afterwards. Patrick Hampsey was saying that you went looking for a few frees during that match. I'm not sure if that's something you'd agree with.
No, well, look, I suppose we'll let people form their own opinions on that there. I think that the general opinion on that after the game was that the referee might have been a wee bit hard on Monaghan. As I say, I haven't watched the game back, so I can't comment myself, but there was a lot of social media and particularly in the media themselves, there's a lot of media comment on that. As I say, it's not my place to say. I haven't watched the game back, so I can't really comment on it, you know.
It's interesting that you haven't watched the game back, actually. Is it? Do you find it particularly tough to watch games back that you've lost in?
Yeah, it can be tough enough at times. I just to be honest, I haven't got around to it. I probably will in time, but just at the minute I haven't got around to watching it back, you know.
Yeah, it's like, I think even supporters of counties who've had very narrow defeats would even struggle to do it. So like I'm not sure, is it something that Malky gets you in later on this winter to try and kind of put those demons to rest, or is it just a matter of completely forgetting it now?
No, I think at this stage, you know, there's nothing to be gained at the minute by watching it back anyway, only for your own personal viewing, but as a team there's nothing really to be gained by watching it. Maybe later into next year might take a look back at it and see what learnings we can get from it, but in the immediate aftermath there's no real joy in watching it back.
Yeah. How do you reflect on your own summer? Because I think everybody is in agreement that it's hard to kind of thrive as an individual with bags of talent as a forward, as a wing forward, a corner forward or a full forward at the moment, but it seemed that you were the exception to that. You and a couple of other forwards were the exception to that this summer, that you still managed to put in unbelievable individual performances despite the fact that we've got this growth of very tough systems.
It's look at it's enjoyable, you know, and there is obviously there's days where it can be tougher than others, and as I say, maybe defensive systems as you mentioned and things like that, so it can be tough, but that's part of the challenge, and that's, you know, you prepare for that every day you go out. You know that's coming your way, and you try and find ways around it and try and, you know, thinking maybe one or two steps ahead as to where you need to be or where you need to move or how you're going to get on the ball or where you need to be to get on the ball and things like that. So it's a challenge, and the way the game has gone is obviously very different to how it was maybe when I started playing into county football, and you know, things were a lot more open and a lot more free flowing, but it's a challenge, and I suppose that's part of the enjoyment of it, you know.
Yeah, just a final topic before we wrap up. Just Monaghan in general at the moment. I know it's still probably a little bit too close to have an appreciation for this, but Monaghan football is now being held up as the template to other counties with a small population, that if you get your structures right, if you get your development squads right, and you've got good coaches at all levels, you can achieve great things like being All-Ireland semi-finalists and being that close to being All-Ireland finalists and challenging at the very, very top table. Like, it's obviously something that you'd agree with yourself. What do you think is the single biggest factor for getting Monaghan into the place where it is now?
There's probably it's a combination of a lot of things. I think there's been a good, you know, obviously having Malachy at the helm for a steady, prolonged period of time, you know, whereby he can get working with guys for prolonged time. Like, he can bring young lads into the panel maybe 2-3 years ago that we're only really seeing now, you know, for the likes of Conor McCarthy, Ryan McGuinness, these boys that have been in there 2 or 3 years now and have that under their belt. Niall Quinn is another example of it, who have been in there, played under Malachy, trained under Malachy, and then they know how the system is, they know how the team wants to play, and we're really starting to see the benefits of them players now, and you know, them guys are all 19, 20, 21, 22, that age of player. So you know, and you know, obviously Malachy and his backroom team, Ryan Porter, Leo McBride, Owen Lennon, Collie McAree, the work that they have done over the last number of years has been massive with this team. But then there's things that's going on in the background. You have a county board, you have the development squads and things out there, and everybody's pulling in the one direction, and you know, once you have harmony there, it makes things a lot easier. But on top of that there, I suppose, and can be missed at times, Monaghan there's quality players in Monaghan, there's quality footballers in Monaghan, and you'll not do any of that without it. You know, and I suppose sometimes that can be overlooked, and people talk about the size of Monaghan's population, whatever else. To be honest, it's not something we look into or read into at all. We have a team, we have a panel of 36 players, the same as every other panel in the country, and we work as hard, if not harder, than a lot of them. and you're trying to get the best out of yourself every day.
Yeah, it's interesting what you mentioned there, those young lads like McCarthy and McInnesby who've been in the panel for a few years despite the fact that they're still quite young. Do you think that that's a template for other people to follow, that no matter what age you are, even if you're just out of minor, just get them into the senior setup just so that they can see how it operates, and even if they're not going to make their championship debut for a few years, then they'll be far more ready than if they were 21 and only getting their first experience of the setup.
Well, that's it, and them guys have played championship football and have played very well. Like Ryan McGuinness came on for us in the Ulster final in 2015. So he's been there and been playing for Monaghan consistently. But the more you're involved in a setup and the more comfortable you can get in a surroundings like that there, whereas if you come in at maybe 19, 20, 21 and it's your first year, and it always takes a year or two to find your feet and to be confident within the group and be confident in your surroundings. So the quicker you can get guys into that environment and this is where they belong, and you can get them into the routine of strength and conditioning, nutrition, all the basics that comes with it. The quicker you can get boys into that train of thought and that mentality, the better it will be for the years ahead. Yeah, and then they obviously come from a very strong development squad setup. Obviously Rory Began is one of the game's promotion officers, isn't he, up there to actually help identify those talents. I wonder if that development setup was as good, say, 10 years ago. Do you think he would have been identified sooner? Do you think he would have been a county minor? Yeah, well, like I was on a minor panel, all right, in fairness, and I got dropped off it before the championship. So, but look, I suppose it's definitely something that has improved massively, over the last 10, 15 years since I was back in development squads. The emphasis that's been placed on young guys and the opportunities they're getting and the things that they're getting in place, the likes of strength and conditioning, even though it might be very basic at that level, it's just getting them into that mentality that's what trying to get to the top involves is your nutrition, your strength and conditioning, your prehab work, your stretching, all them small things that you have to do day in, day out. But if you can get guys into that habit and that train of thought early on, it makes a massive difference to when they do get to that senior level, they're just doing their everyday thing, when they get there, But also the key thing is that the clubs aren't being forgotten, despite the fact that this is matching other counties for elitism, because like you mentioned yourself there before we pressed record here that you're out playing county league last week, and there's a setup in Monaghan, isn't there, where you get extra points in the league for a game with your county players? Yeah, they've changed that this year to try and give games to the club players throughout the whole summer. So there's 9 games with your county players and 9 games without, and the 9 games with your county players are worth 5 points and the 9 without are worth 2. So it has just given teams a steady run of games throughout the summer where the county team and the county guys have been off focusing on that. The club lads have been fit to play football right through the summer, so it seems to have worked quite well. How do you think you would have got on against Dublin? That's a golden question. I was asked that earlier on just about the All-Ireland final and Tyrone's chances. If we were going into the All-Ireland final, you would be going in thinking you could win it, and I've no doubt Tyrone are going in thinking the same. If they're not, game over already. What's the point in going? And there's absolutely no doubt that Tyrone are going in thinking they can win it. Mickey Hart will feel that he is a team there that can win the All-Ireland on any given day. It's a one-off game now, and there's no doubt Tyrone will feel that they can win it. If we were going into it, we would be thinking the same. Now, it's a massive challenge. There's no point saying any different. It's probably the best team possibly playing the game, going for 4 in a row. So it's a huge challenge, but it's not one that Tyrone will fear, Yeah. Last question then. We look at Limerick winning the All-Ireland in hurling at the weekend, and it seems that the gulf that we would have perceived was there between Limerick and Kilkenny 5-6 years ago, even between Limerick and Tip and Galway over the past couple of years, seems similar enough between the gulf between Dublin and the rest of the Division 1 teams. Is that fair to say, and what can you learn from that then? I suppose it's like anything else. I suppose you can take any teams that are thereabouts can take heart from that and take learnings from that if you can get your house in order, and I suppose there's a number of teams that are thereabouts at the minute, and it's just taking that final wee step. And I think if you listen to any of the Limerick lads since they won, they all talked about belief, and they all talked about how they felt they belonged there. And they talked about having fun as well, which is something that we don't hear a lot in county Gaelic games at the moment. Yeah, no, and funny, it's something that we would have had over the course of the summer this year. I suppose that the fact that the games have come so thick and fast, and when you're together that much, it lends itself to having fun as well, I suppose. But it's it's an enjoyable time for anybody. Particularly the way the games have gone this year. You're playing week in, week out. There's less training, more games, and it just lends itself to that sort of atmosphere around the camp.
Conor McManus in conversation with Owen there at the PwC GPA All-Star Player of the Month announcements during the week. Deller Beller has been in touch on YouTube. He says, yes boys, what's the crack? Who would you rather have in your team? Colin Cooper in his prime or McManus in his prime? Be honest, says Deller Beller.
Colin Cooper.
I mean, I think it's... Conor McManus is a class player, a marquee forward, hugely important for his county, but Colin Cooper is one of the greatest forwards of all time.
Yeah, it's quite clear.
Yeah.
I'm not even entertaining debate.
Ty Carroll wonders if Deller Beller is crazy, to be fair. It's an accurate enough sort of observation.
Yeah,
maybe Deller Beller get back in touch and tell us sort of what you're thinking, what's your rationale, what's your choice.
It would be interesting to see McManus play in the Kerry team that Scooch played on.
Ah, yeah, but I mean, it's all...
McManus in that 09 team would have caused a wreck, to use that phrase.
A good Kerry phrase. Leitrim has the coast between Sligo and Donegal. Mick Finn rightly points out on Facebook,
sorry about that.
You really let yourself down. You've let yourself down a few times this morning. You're support of the Pope, even though you don't support him, and not knowing that,
I got mixed up between Leitrim and Roscommon. It happens to the best of us.
Question 5 on this morning's company crappy quiz. We've been giving everybody a bit of a chance to win a couple of tickets for the roadshow next Thursday night by giving us any kind of an answer essentially to these questions. We're 4 questions in. Question number 5 is the world famous, incredibly difficult numbers round. So 4 numbers here required. Tot them up, write down your sum total. It says here on the sheet in front of me, on the sheet provided. The 4 numbers are inspired by the club careers of 4 Republic of Ireland legends. Roy Keane's shirt number at Manchester United. What was it? Make a note of it. Robbie Keane's shirt number at Liverpool. What was it? Add it on to the previous number. Dennis Irwin's shirt number at United. What was it? Add it on to the previous 2 numbers. And Kevin Kilban, I mean, they're all Ireland legends here. Kevin Kilban's shirt number at Everton. What was it? Add it on to the rest. Tot them all up and jot your answer down in the on YouTube there, on Facebook, or on Twitter, or wherever it is you're watching us. Add them all up and send it through to us. Not a huge amount of people got this number right last night. I think the first 3, Roy Keane at United, Dennis Irwin at United, and Robbie Keane at Liverpool. I think most people got those. It was the killer at Everton question that threw most people. Did you get that? You didn't get that one right.
I think we did. I think we did. I certainly wasn't behind that. I'm very bad at remembering who wore what number. Like, I can tell you,
Keane's is like one of the most famous things of all time.
Yeah, that's a tad different.
Irwin, I'd say, is in that kind of territory.
Maybe, yeah, but like, if you talk about any kind of famous Premier League player, like, I'm very, very poor. Like, what number did Frank Lampard wear for Chelsea?
He wore number 8.
Number 8. Like, that makes sense. Probably an educated guess, you could say he wore number 8.
No, 100% more number 8 doesn't.
No, but like, if I was to, like, somebody could guess that as well. But I know that like, it's just one of those things, a huge blind spot. I'm not sure am I the only one who just doesn't remember shirt numbers. It just doesn't matter to me. Yeah. I don't care.
Well, there's all sorts of bad things coming out about you this morning, so that's just the latest in a long list.
Well, that's probably the worst of them, isn't it?
Question number 6 is the Irish women's team stunned the... it says here in front of me, look, I don't know who wrote this. The Irish women's team stunned the incredibly well-to-do world of hockey with their run to the World Cup final in London this summer. I don't know, I'm not responsible for writing these things. The success was due in no small part to the heroics of the Ireland goalkeeper. Name her. So that is question number 6 on the
you were asked to name that goalkeeper in the crappy quiz a few weeks ago. Did you get it right?
I wasn't, but somebody else was, and they didn't get it right. I, however, would have done.
Well, you certainly would have done now.
And I could say that now.
Wrote her name down.
Darragh O'Toole has been back in touch on YouTube to say he's willing to wager that Adrian has been to Mass more times than Owen Sheehan.
I really, really hope so.
I mean, I doubt it. I mean, I don't know. You see, it depends on your experience of going to Mass. Mine is not beyond the age of about 16 or 17. There's not many.
Pretty much the same, to be honest. So...
I mean, maybe because I'm
been to a few more weddings than me.
Well, maybe because I'm marginally older than you. I might have racked up a few more weddings and funerals and stuff, I suppose.
Potentially, I don't know. It's like, I really hope that that's the case, because the SJW needs to take a good long hard look at himself in the mirror, basically.
Social justice warrior, by the way, for all the people who clearly haven't a clue what the hell that means. Do keep your comments coming into us. We still have a couple more questions to go on the company crappy quiz and those tickets to give away, which we'll do. We've Kevin Walsh as well, the Galway manager upcoming. We're going to chat to about Dublin Tyrone and about the departure of Paddy Tally for the down manager's job. So all of that to come. But before all of that, Maura Trassin Calig has been out and about this week chatting to Niall Quinn yesterday at the launch of Virgin Media Sport. Maura Trassin in conversation here with Niall Quinn.
Niall Quinn, around this time last year you said you were stepping away from punditry, and here you are back.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be asked back. I had a year away. I started up a tech company and had to dig that out of the ground for the last 12 months. Still doing a bit of it, and it's going pretty well. But I suppose I kept watching football. I didn't give up on football. It was funny. I was now looking at other people and what they were saying on TV, and would I agree with them or disagree with them, and so I still had a bit of, the juices were flowing.
Something else you stepped away from, obviously, is Sunderland. You were linked with it and you denied it.
Yes.
What would tempt you back?
Oh no, I don't think there's a lot would tempt me back there. I think fair play to the guy who's gone in there. One of the biggest things he's done, and you need to understand Sunderland, and I think he does already, is you need to have the fans on your side and they need to trust in where you're going. They don't demand success, but they need to trust that there's a vision in place that has a care, a genuine care, and I suppose a want and an understanding of the fans' passion, and I think that disappeared a little bit in the last few years, and the guy who's gone in now, or the team that's gone in now, the manager as well, they seem to be really getting that right, and the players are buying into it, and I have a lot of Sunderland friends still, and they're really happy at the moment. It was a dismal prospect going down into the third tier, but they're happier now than they've been in 3 or 4 years, so hopefully it'll grow strong and build itself back up. But I don't think it was ever an option for me. I'd had a couple of interested parties get in touch with me, but not to lead from the front, maybe just in an advisory capacity to give them a little bit of a hand before they went in. But the group that finally got it, I didn't know them, I don't know them, but I pat them on the back and wish them continued success, because they've got off to a really good start.
That'd be the next natural question. Times have changed, even compared to when you first joined Sunderland in the capacity you did with the Irish consortium. I'd imagine the way financials are gone now, it'd be very, very different. Would you be even able to do it?
Well, there you go. So when we came in, I think it was 12 years ago, so it's not 100 years ago, but it was 12 years ago, we bought the club for, I think, about 2/3 of the price of a left back that they bought 2.5 years ago. And that kind of sums it up, really, You can have a football club with a stadium and a crowd of 40-odd thousand, maybe nearly 49,000 when things are going well. Fantastic training ground, a hotel, a massive infrastructure, and sort of 8-10 years later, you can't buy a fullback or anybody to play in your team for 1/3 of that. But now, to do that now, you really need a big checkbook.
And that brings us on naturally to the League of Ireland. We've seen out this summer, we've got Dundalk and Cork City who are like a step above everyone else. But as we're seeing, they're not making the impact in Europe. And if they have a player, they're taking off them.
Well, that's true, yeah. And it's unfortunate, that Dundalk didn't kick on this year. I really thought, after last year and the extra investment that there was a European campaign. The draw was quite tough on them. But in general, I think the League of Ireland probably does need an impact now. It needs lifting. I listened very attentively to Richard Sadlier and Stephen Kenny speaking during the week about the need for some assistance at government level to bring the league into place. I would look at it in a more rounded way. I'd look at the entire playing system we have here. There's some real positives. Our underage teams have started to do very well. So I think the FAI should be patted on the back for what they're doing in emerging talent areas. Our team, I think, are good enough at senior level to qualify for the Euros. This new format will hopefully make it a bit easier for that to happen, and we can build on that. And the younger players that are coming in, or the new players that are coming in that have maybe experienced League of Ireland, that have got themselves over to maybe the Championship or the third tier in England, that they seize the moment now that they're being blooded, given their opportunity by Martin, and that they want more and to get far more out of it, than where they might have thought possible. And it's not a silly thing to suggest that the players who maybe left the League of Ireland, who went to clubs like Preston and what have you, that they can kick on and get big moves to other clubs. I think that's there for them. For the league itself, yes, it does. I think facilities, a lot of infrastructure is needed to make it an appealing and attractive league to go and watch for families. How do you do that? It's not simple, so I'm not here to give you the answer to do that. I do know a real sort of progressive plan is needed. It needs buy-in from a lot of stakeholders, particularly government and perhaps the commercial world. There may be value in it, particularly as football is so big here. It should be in a better place. But there's one fantastic, not a green shoot of recovery, because that's the wrong word, but a green shoot of positivity, in that the young Shamrock Rovers goalkeeper, young Benuzzo, a powerhouse like Man City, not alone will they pay 400,000 for him, they will also let him stay here and do his leaving certificate. I think that's huge. That's a big sea change from where our sort of talent was looked on by other clubs. I remember speaking to Brian Marwood at Man City, and he said, we'd like to have Irish kids younger, we don't trust your system, we want to see them at 12, 13 and get them 3 or 4 years before they come to us. And I said, that's very fine, but now what's happened is not only have they seen the talent that this young lad has, they're willing to let him develop as a young man before he goes and throws his lot into becoming a top footballer. So instead of English clubs thinking, we'll get him over cheap, and if he's no good we'll send him back, it doesn't matter, he hasn't got his leaving cert, he'll find his own way in life. That's the way it's been forever. Now suddenly you've got a system where Manchester City, one of the top powerhouses in world football, are respecting A, the player's talent, and B, the player's desire and his family's desire to be a young man when he goes, not a young boy. And I think that's huge. That means, our system is still producing quality players. How can we manufacture that into getting more of them into better situations? That's the big question, and how that can help the League of Ireland. So could talk to you here about it all day, but it does need some action.
I know you're under time pressure, so I won't keep you, but just one thing you've been very vocal on is, moving on from that, is the subject of player welfare, which hasn't always been the top of the tree when things are being discussed, like plans, fixtures, plans, development of players. Some has been done, but a lot more needs to be done.
Well, yeah, in lots of ways, I think not just in football, I read lots of stories about GAA guys who weren't ready for their retirement, or who it ended too early for them, and they weren't in a position to deal with it. And I think from young lads who were let go very early on, who were deemed failures before they've even got going as a human being, that's bad enough as it is. That's why even though I didn't do it myself, I'm a big advocate of, if you can get a club to wait for you till you do your leaving cert, A, you've got a better chance, I think, because they care more about you, they'll wait longer for you, and B, you're developed more as a human being. So ex-players probably haven't provided for things as well as they might. Divorce happens a lot in our world anyway, in the football world, sport in general, I think. Retirement, divorce, bankruptcy, bad investments. There's a catalogue of disasters out there, household names in the past, and life hasn't been as kind, or hasn't dealt them the hand they had as players, and it's difficult. But of course, the preparation before you retire is where it's really at, and that's the bit that I think the Premier League, the FA, all these different people could look closely at. There should be almost an automatic 3-year period. When you hit 30 years of age as a footballer, you must withhold your wages unless you do these preparatory programs, because it's a horrible fall the day the lights go out on your career, and you take the plaudits for a few weeks afterwards. But within 6 months, a lot of players just don't know what's ahead of them. They don't know, they weren't ready for it, they hadn't experienced anything like it before, and they lose their esteem. As I said to you, multiply that with bad investments. It's a lot of pain there that we don't see, and not looking for sympathy for these people, just like maybe the people who got so much enjoyment out of them, the associations that they made the things up. Okay, that they somehow maybe just rejig how players prepare for their retirement.
He's just too nice in a lot of ways, isn't he?
Yeah, I had to wave good morning to whoever that person was walking by.
Floating on past. I went over to Sunderland a number of years ago is my mic working?
I'm not quite sure. It is. Yeah, I think it is.
I went over to Sunderland a number of years ago to do a documentary about Sunderland. It was one of the religious holidays, I'm going to say.
Which of course you mark.
Yeah, one of those. Anyway, whatever day it was, there was nobody around the club. Everything was sort of dead quiet around the town, and he came all the way in, showed me around the club, did a lengthy interview with me, and showed me the kindness of Sunderland. I have to say, I was bowled over by him that day. His charm and charisma Second to few, I would say.
Yeah, like without getting into this conversation that we had with James McLean earlier on, when you get into the boardroom, there's fewer and fewer characters like Niall Quinn still present, particularly at the very, very top level in English football. That there's almost like kind of a father figure kind of nature to the way Niall Quinn was running that club, and very much now it's business, very serious. The whole family nature of football clubs has certainly gone down the drain, which is only natural with the amount of commercialism involved.
Yeah, well, as Liam Mackey pointed out in the Keith Andrews show yesterday, that every Thursday at 12:30, that Quinn has been there at every aspect of the business, so he understands it. He understands the shortcomings of players, I suppose, in a lot of ways, and that allows him to be the chairman, I suppose, that he was. But yeah, so that full piece available on youtube.com/offtheball. So that is that in terms of the football this weekend, a busy weekend of football as well. Ahead, we'll bring you a couple of questions before we leave you, the final few questions before we leave you, lots of answers coming in and all of that good stuff. But before all of that, I'm delighted to say we're joined on the line by the Galway football manager, Kevin Walsh. Good morning to you, Kevin.
How are you doing? How are you keeping?
Very good. Thanks a lot for taking the call this morning. We want to talk to you a little bit about Tyrone, Dublin, but if you'll permit us, Paddy Tally obviously has been confirmed overnight as the new Down football manager, meaning that he's going to leave your setup a loss, I'm sure.
Yeah, look, Paddy, we had him for the year there, and Paddy be very committed, and obviously he's got bigger things to fill in his life, and I suppose it's his first job, I think, heading into the number one role. So, it's a good opportunity for him, and it's not too far from home. And met Paddy last week with a good chat about things. So, just heading into with St Mary's and coaching for so long, it'll be his first time in the front seat.
Yeah, we were talking to Danny Hughes about it a bit earlier on, and sort of that notion of exactly that thing, that point that you make. It's a different beast, isn't it, being the selector to the main man?
It is, of course, yeah. But I suppose look, at some point, when the ambition is there to do that, it's a good place for him to get and to try. It's a new challenge for him, and it certainly is a different beast.
So he asked you for your advice, I'm sure. What did you tell him?
Don't get out of it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. I know. Look, we had a good chat about it last week, and obviously these decisions and this change coming up, people often can be afraid or don't like change, and you have to admire people that put themselves out there to challenge themselves at the highest level, and all that comes with it. So there'll be plenty of flack coming during the year to every manager, and you're going to have to take that. But at the same time, there's a lot of good in those challenges you set up for yourself as well.
Yeah, the transformation is probably a bit of a strong word, but the improvement that Galway have made from last season to this season is stark. It's been one of the stories of the year. To what extent was that a collaborative experience between you and Paddy? Was it mostly you and then Paddy kind of executed it, or how did it work?
In fairness, it's when you bring in new, fresh voices, it's always good, and when you bring people with a background of knowledge, that's always good as well. So you work that together. I suppose that maybe with all it's been, is the likes of Down now. It'll be interesting to see, where I'm sure they'll be watching what kind of tactical stuff goes on and stuff. But we would have worked well together. I think it's a case of when you start off with any team, the foundations are your philosophy and what you believe in and what you're going to stick to, and if you have a vision and a plan, you're going to get plenty of flack for the first year or two in trying to execute that. But at the end of the day, I think sport has gone to a level now. It's not about entertainment. You have to be looking at winning as well. So it's a case of that vision and plan going forward, and you driving it and standing by it. And well, that's something that Paddy or any manager is going to have. And there'll be tough days at the start, and but you work together, you get the best around you, and you try to drive that plan forward as much as possible. So I think even getting Paddy in last year and the year gone by, it's funny. Paddy would mainly have done on the attacking side for us, and so I don't expect straight away that Down are going to be seen as a defensive team, because Paddy would have plenty of knowledge of attack, and that's mainly where he was with us, to be honest.
You mentioned taking flack there, Kevin. Do you feel that this Galway team, your Galway team, over the past season has got a lot of flack?
But to be honest, I don't really care about the flack, because the flack you're talking about is probably from outside. So look, that's just a kind of a game that's been played by certain people that like to keep at that. So we don't really get involved, to be honest. And I always talk about India accounts. The flack I would be worried about is the flack I would give myself, and we will give plenty flack to ourselves if we feel we've failed in certain areas. We do that all the time. We'll do that again this year. But at the end of the year account, all we can do is, where has this team come from? Has it gone from 14 up to 8, 8 up to 5, 5 up to 2 or 3? That's the end of the year accounts we do. Regardless what flag comes behind that, we don't really care. It's a flag that really makes a difference for us, and we will do this. Is the flag we give ourselves, and that's the only way you can improve.
Kevin, we'd John Kiley in last week. He was in a similar enough sort of position to yourself, obviously having gotten so close that you can almost touch it, and then obviously to fall at the final hurdle. John Myler rather than John Kiley, who was a very different story this summer. And he was talking about, that whole dynamic and the pain of it and sort of that whole process of trying to get over it. Where are you at, like a couple of weeks on at this stage?
Look, where am I at? Personally, need to review. That's where we're at the minute. It's when you have set yourself targets and every team bar one is going to fall at some hurdle, and I'm always conscious of that in 10 years of this crack now. So there's always going to be a day that you're going to have to just realise that the season is over, and whether that's at the very final team or not, there's only 1 out of 32 is going to win that. So you have to be realistic, and you have to look properly at the year. You have to look at the mirroring image. You have to look at ourselves. So at the minute we're probably going to be getting together to look at ourselves, and we'll take it from there and see where we go from here. But as I said, at the end of every match, you've got large back-home teams, a large amount of players, lives, circumstances change, all that type of stuff goes on. So it's a new year, and I suppose we just have to look to see where we're at. Is that kind of helicopter level stuff at this stage, or are you already in the minutiae looking back at the loss to the Dubs, or like what sort of level is that at? It's at a level, I suppose, that people are, people are taking holidays, different things like that. So the real deep chatting hasn't probably taken place yet. So it's a case of everybody just winding down, getting the thoughts together, and see where it goes from there. In terms of obviously looking ahead to next weekend and the prospect that lies in store from a Tyrone point of view, was it things that, looking back at the game, or thoughts that you had in terms of, I'm sure Mickey Hart has analysed the hell out of it, that you might have done differently, or that Tyrone might be able to implement? Look, I think when you're playing Dublin in Croke Park, and there's a lot of factors against you, and that's number one. So you're going to have to be ready to be almost, well, not almost, at the very top. And I suppose if you look at, you're going to have to convert your chances, and I think that would be a huge thing to do. But at the same time, I've got to be realistic in this and understand that was probably the first time that nearly all those guys had flagged out in front of 60,000 and shouting and roaring and stuff that goes on. So I think it's important for every team to get to Croke Park as often as possible, because you really have a few factors to deal with. As I said to you, the goalposts aren't as visible as they would be in pitches that people have played in. I suppose that's something that where teams are going to have to really work at, because Dublin has a huge advantage in that area. So this Dublin team are there, so 2011, 2013. So their familiarity goes way back, where the younger teams now are going to have to deal with that. And I suppose the Mayos of this world, who came on the scene the same time in 2013 as this Dublin team, would be a lot more used to those environments. So that environment is a huge. It's a barrier to get over, but look, everyone has to get over that.
What do you think Mickey Hart is going to do next weekend, Kevin?
Look, Mickey is long enough in the game. He's going to have to, as you said, analyse the hell out of all games, not just our game. And he's going. The team are going to have to take their chances. And I suppose number one, they're going to have to make the chances. And I think if you're to look at anything, we had probably something like 17, 18 good chances. There weren't shots from all over the place, but we didn't convert half how we should have converted, and that may have just put a little bit of pressure on the Dubs. And then second half, obviously, maybe a bit of doubt in the mind, and we that 15 minutes we certainly pushed up. If we were going to get bet by 2, we'll have to get bet by 7 or 8, and we leaked a lot of late points because of that. But that's all part of a learning process. So I suppose Mickey will have to analyse everything, and he's going to have to know he's going to have to take his chances. Like, it took them a while to get to grips with Ian Burke, obviously. That might be one thing that sort of maybe surprised a few people, that
maybe took Dublin so long, and maybe something that gives Tyrone a bit of hope here?
I don't think it's down to one player. I think John Armstrong had 2 or 3 chances. Shane Welch 2 or 3 chances. Damien had early chances. Just 2 or 3. The penalty chance obviously missed. There's another goal chance missed. So it wasn't just one person. I think you're going to have everybody at this. You're going to have runners all over the place. You're going to have to make space, and hard enough to make space, but you're going to have to be doing that. And I don't think that this can be a case that you're kind of hoping that one player is going to deliver here for Tyrone. Everyone's going to have to be firing, and everyone's going to have to be working really hard.
That making space is quick movement of ball, and obviously there's a fatigue factor obviously involved in all of that, and we've seen how a lot of teams who can live with Dublin to sort of 55 minutes and then fall away. Is there almost a fitness factor in that to a degree?
Yeah, again, I suppose it's if you can dictate the game, and the one way that dictating the game is to be leading, and then I think if you get your chances early on and you take them and you win the game, you can start dictating at your pace. So that's something that I suppose most teams should be aspiring to, is to put themselves in a position that that they don't leave in their position with a ball handler type of activity going on, where you can hold the ball and he's in the counter. So that's going to be crucial early on. If the chances are made, number one, and that they're taken, and if they're taken, and you can be in a position to at least try to control the game, you give yourself a chance.
Good stuff, Kevin. Thanks a million for taking the call.
No problem, really.
That's the Galway manager, Kevin Walsh, there, previewing the Dublin-Tyrone game first and reflecting as well in the news that Paddy Tally is the new Down manager, the former Galway selector. A whole bunch of comments in here. Ty Carroll on YouTube says, maybe Conor McManus, actually, this is the Gooch versus Conor McManus debate. He's had to produce the goods against a lot more aggressive defences, so he's playing against Ulster opponents much more often that Gooch wouldn't have done. And essentially what Ty Carroll is here, I'm absolutely putting words in his mouth, is saying that the Gooch had a bit of an armchair ride, whereas Conor McManus didn't.
Yeah, well, you are putting words in his mouth, because that's not, that commenter would not have the audacity to suggest that Gooch had an armchair ride. But you're clearly sticking the neck out there, Adrian.
Tig also was in touch. We had our bunch of questions, that very special crappy quiz that we had at the company quiz night out last night, which Owen did not win. He was in touch to say that. So one of the questions, no, you didn't. One of the questions was about shirt numbers. So who was this person's shirt number at this club at this time, and then add them all up. So Tig was in touch to say that he never cared about shirt numbers. I mean, motivated enough to get in touch to say that he doesn't care about the question, but
I don't care about shirt numbers either.
Keep the questions coming into us. Funny one there about Niall Quinn and satellite selling, but probably shouldn't get into that too much.
Well, he featured in our World Cup of endorsements.
He did. Yeah, this is a bit of a cutting commentary, as tends to happen a little bit on YouTube. Rob McGreal, speaking of cutting comments about me, says, such an SJW jumper, that one. Could see in a tent outside Central Bank in that look, Adrian. If there's a space and there's good coffee, I'd be happy to wear this jumper or any other jumper.
SJW jumper. Oh my God, that's the best comment ever. That's going to be our new Friday morning greeting. Are you wearing your SJW jumper today?
Christian Sullivan correctly guessed that the total of those jersey numbers was 40. Have I given any answers so far? I'm not sure I have. Cian Lynch's helmet white. The order of the Twitter followers was Katie, Podrick, and then Claudine Keane. Keith Andrews was the off-the-ball pundit sent off against Italy at Euro 2012. Andy Friend is the Connacht coach. 40 was the number of those jerseys. We had a lot of wrong answers on that one, kind of bizarrely, given that people have access to the internet apart from anything else. But it doesn't matter, because Tommy's going to pick out a winner, and it doesn't matter if you gave a right answer, wrong answer, or stupid answer, or slag at my jumper or whatever. It doesn't really make any difference. You're all in the hat for
it's a nice jumper,
a pair of tickets.
Don't
I think
listen
it's a
to those
fine
people.
jumper.
It is. It's just it makes you look like a little bit of an SJW. That's all people are saying this morning.
But I'm okay with that. 40 was the number for those jerseys. 16 for Roy Keane, 7 for Robbie Keane, 3 was Dennis Irwin's number at Manchester United, of course, and 14 was the one that kind of caught people out a little bit, Kevin Caban's number at Everton.
Yeah.
Speaking about it on the show a couple of weeks ago, so, just saying, if you were keeping an ear out. Kieran Ahern was one of the correct answers. He got that on Twitter. Dara Toomey correctly guessed that Andy Friend is the new Connacht head coach. Ken Powell said 30 for the number. Which is not correct. A whole bunch of correct answers on Aisha McFerrin, who's the Ireland women's hockey goalkeeper. Question 7 and 8 I'm going to give you now here. Question 7. The Dublin footballers have steamrolled all opposition since their manager Jim Gavin landed on planet Earth from a place far, far away, all the way back in 2012. In fact, the Dubs have won every single All-Ireland football championship during that period, barring one. Which one did the Dubs not win since Sir Jim has been in charge? Pretty simple, really. That was question 7. Question 8. Ireland are the reigning Six Nations champions and indeed the Grand Slam champions. They also hold the famous own, I'm sure you're aware of both of these trophies, the Millennium Trophy and the Centenary Quach.
Yep, they sure do, Adrian. On the mantelpiece.
From their wins over Wales and Scotland respectively. But which two Six Nations teams compete for the Giuseppe Garibaldi Trophy?
It's kind of a clue in the name, really, isn't it?
There's an absolute clue in the name.
There's quite a continental feel to that.
Most people got that one correct. Which two Six Nations teams compete for the Giuseppe Garibaldi Trophy? Send us in your answers, and correct, wrong or otherwise are going to be in the hat to win a pair of tickets to our roadshow at Croke Park to preview Dublin Tyrone in the company of a whole host of legends next Thursday night. So that is pretty sweet. You can get tickets, by the way, if you don't win, at offtheball.com/events is the link for that. So do keep your comments coming into us here. Lots of them, good, bad and otherwise as well. Right, we are going next to if I can find it on my script here in front of me. Can I find that there?
We're going to preview the Pope, Adrian, I think is.
I've got some sort of a cue here on, but where it is on my screen.
You could just take a lucky dip. You could just.
No, I have it here. Tommy's done his work. Yeah, Tommy's done his work. It's just me being blind. That's really all. We want to bring you this. It's the latest Off the Bench episode. Footballers Tracy Leonard and Bernie Breen joining Cliona Foley and Orico researcher Grania Comfrey in the studio this week to talk about the new app Fitter Woman. Have a listen.
This is really relevant to you, Tracy.
Yeah, really relevant.
Tell us why.
Since this app came out, I said I wish I was only a few years younger, like to nosing back before I did my cruciate.
When did you do the cruciate?
2016.
Yeah.
That's when I did my cruciate. So this app has just been amazing. Like, as in, it identifies, at what phase, when you're kind of at your weakest, and when you should tail back your training. I think is great for women because there has become there's quite an increase in women doing cruciate injury. So even just nutrition wise as well, it tells you at stages when you're that bit weak, you're a little bit weaker to hold back, you're at risk of tendon injury, and that, which is brilliant. It shows you're increasing maybe your protein and that for growth and repair
at a particular time.
But it just by clicking onto the app and that, and logging in your period and that, it just as said, when you're coming to kind of hard training sessions and you're going to be pushed harder, you have to push yourself out in the gym this week, and your app is telling you, well, this week you're at risk. It's great to be able to kind of tailor your training in that sense,
and have a scientific reason for it. Be able to say, there's a reason I shouldn't be doing that this week.
Definitely, because it hadn't been there. When I first started out playing sport and that, and strength and conditioning, I suppose, has become such a big part now.
Such a massive part, and a massive part of your inter-county work as well.
Definitely, this is just something that has added another little touch to it again, which I think is going to be massive in hopefully the prevention of injuries in particular.
Well, the prevention of injuries is a key one, and we know that cruciate injury rates are higher in women than men, which is an extraordinary thing, and people have now only in the last 10 years probably have started to realise that the prevalence of cruciate is very big.
Yeah, that's Cliona Foley there, the presenter of Off the Bench, Off the Ball's women's sport podcast, and joining her in studio this week, as you can see there, footballers Tracy Leonard and Bernie Breen, and Orico researcher Grania Comfrey talking about the new app Fitter Woman. So that you can get that full podcast at youtube.com/Off the Ball. So go and check that out. We're going to give you the answers to our last couple of questions. France, Italy says Christian Sullivan on YouTube, and that is indeed the correct answer. France and Italy. Did you get that right last night?
We did, of course.
2014, of course, was the year that the Dubs did not win the All-Ireland under Sir Jim, and so that was questions 7 and 8. We've had lots of correct answers in, needless to say, to all of that good stuff. Question 9, this was the most difficult one of the night, the one that stumped most people. Your team did get it right. The 2018 Irish Open took place on the picturesque Inishowen Peninsula. Ballyliffin Golf Club a little bit earlier in this year. A great tournament, tremendous tournament, super tournament. We were partners with the Irish Open, the Dubai duty-free Irish Open, nevertheless a tremendous tournament.
Probably one of the best sporting conclusions of the year, the Irish Open.
But who won it is the question. Tough question.
Yeah, reasonably easy.
I'm not going to. I gave a hint last night. I'm not giving a hint here. Not hint worthy. And then question number 10 for all of our Cork viewers this morning. Cork consider themselves, of course, to be a superior race to all other mere mortals. There's scant evidence, of course, to support this delusion, including most recently some underperformance on the sporting pitches of Ireland. However, they're currently in the middle of their longest All-Ireland hurling drought since the 1910s, believe it or not. But when did Cork last win the Liam McCarthy Trophy?
Also reasonably easy.
Only easy if you know them all. That's the.
Well, there's actually, it's not just knowing the Cork one. You just got to know when Kilkenny did the 4 in a row and when did they not win the 5 in a row.
I know,
and
yeah,
then just
but
count back.
There's a assumption of knowledge there that.
I think it's a ridiculous question. Like, do I have to get full outraged about some questions here or something
to try and flip outraged. If you're outraged, be outraged, and if you're not, don't.
Fair enough. Well,
I mean, a pity you wouldn't get full outraged when you're going to see the Pope tomorrow. But
I'm sure we'll see full outrage Adrian Barry in full character later on in the crappy quiz.
I can't imagine so. I mean, I've mellowed since I've become champ.
Like, do you get yourself G'd up to become this fake cranky character before the crappy quiz? Do you have to
It just comes naturally.
Are you a method actor? Do you have to do something during the day that gets you frustrated or something? And then
working with you on, that's really all I need.
Fair enough. I think that's a fair enough statement.
We're going to pick a winner of that competition, Tommy. I think after our next piece. Is that right? Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. So that is on the way. You're going to win yourself a pair of tickets for our road show later today. Our new Friday Premier League show is live at 12:30. That's going to mark your card with all the best tips of the weekend in partnership with Boyle Sports. That's coming your way from 12:30 today. John and Ger and Leon Blanche are going to be marking a card ahead of the weekend. Liverpool are playing Chris Hughton's Brighton this weekend. Graham Souness is very, very excited about this season for Liverpool.
The minute you walk through the door at Liverpool, you're expected to get trophies. But I think now, I'm slightly surprised that they're not sort of playing up their potential to win something. It's all about, no, we're not ready, we're not. And I think they are ready. I think they've got a really good team and they have a squad as well, not just a starting 11. So I can see them coming close, if not winning something this year. Get the new goalkeeper will improve them greatly if he is a real deal. I think he looks like it so far. Got more midfield players to choose from now, slightly different types, maybe more creative types than the workaholics they have in Henderson, Wijnaldum and James Milner. And you got that front three that will cause anyone problems. So I think Liverpool are particularly strong. But I emphasise it's not just the starting 11. They've got some strength and depth now. So I think when you look at them, I think this could be the start of a decade where they could be winning trophies on a regular basis.
Graham Souness at the Virgin Media Sport Lounge yesterday in conversation with Maura Trassa there, and he's probably not wrong. You'd have to think. By the way, Arsenal against West Ham is tomorrow's live game on Premier League Live with Sky Sports on Today FM. You can join Philip Egan from 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. He's back in the hot seat with commentary at the Emirates from Dave McIntyre and Brian Kerr. So really looking forward to that, and keep an eye out for that, an ear out for that one tomorrow. That's pretty much it for the minute. Just to recap on the answers to our previous 2 quiz questions. Russell Knox, the winner of the Irish Open in 2005, the last year that Cork won the Liam McCarthy Trophy. We've had a whole bunch of answers in on that, including our old friend Darragh O'Toole has been in touch again. He got Russell Knox correct. He got 2013 for something or other. I'm presuming that must have been the Cork guess by the timeline here.
Oh, Dublin, I'd say.
But by the timeline, I think it might have been the Cork guess. Anyway, he's wrong either way. Kevin Kane on Twitter says Isha McFerrin was the hockey keeper. That's correct. But anyway, Darragh has been back in touch. You've given me all sorts of abuse all morning and I've enjoyed it. This time, like He-Man, Adrian is deriving a lot of his confidence from his tweed centre social justice warrior jumper.
It's so good.
Is there
so
a likeness
accurate.
between me and He-Man, do you think, Owen?
You look exactly like. You're the exact same person.
Yeah, sword in hand.
It could be.
Tweed centre, I don't understand what's...
I don't understand the tweed centre either. Do you feel that you derive a lot of confidence from your jumper?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Like, you're more confident when you got the jumper on?
I think we're good to go at this stage.
When we start talking about the confidence powers of your jumper, you probably know it's close enough to time to wrap.
Darragh, fair play to you for all the abuse this morning. I've enjoyed it, and as such, you're going to be the recipient of a pair of tickets to go and see the All-Ireland football final preview. So you can see all the details there on your screen. It's next Thursday night. Jim McGuinness, James Horan, Cora Staunton, Kieran McGeeney, Aidan O'Shea, Peter Canavan and Keith Barr, the latter two with the on opposing sides, of course, ahead of Sunday week grand final. So that's all at Croke Park, and a pair of tickets are winging the way to you. For everybody else, you can head along to offtheball.com/events is the place to get all of your good tickets for that. So that is pretty much it from us for today. I'm off to take it easy for the weekend. Owen is off to support the arrival of the Pope.
You're getting out of town, are you?
Most likely, I would think. I haven't made a firm plan just yet.
Why don't you go and protest the Pope?
I mean, I'm not
Staying
dead
silent
against
is
that.
just as bad.
I'm not dead against that. I mean, I would suggest that not going is a better form of protest than going and not protesting while there.
Well, you know, each their own. I'm not going, really, Adrian. It was like if he was outside. We had this conversation already, let's not have it again.
And as I think it might have been Dara, or one of our friendly YouTube viewers this morning pointed out, it's a sports show, FFS. Andy Dunleavy at the top of the show.
We got the Croke Park link, I guess. It's sport to some people.
Yeah.
Adrian.
Very good. Let's leave it there. That is pretty much it from myself and Owen for this Friday morning. Pleasure having you alongside us. We'll be back with you on OTB AM on Monday morning from 7:45. Off the Ball is with you on News Talk from 1 o'clock tomorrow. Special Saturday panel there and lots of good stuff. Premier League Live too with Sky Sports on Today FM from 2 o'clock tomorrow. But for myself and Owen, that's pretty much it from us for the minute. We're going to leave you with more Trasny Callaghan conversation with Kevin Kilban. Yep, Kevin Kilban at the launch of Virgin Media Sport yesterday. Good luck.
Yeah, this is the smartest I've ever felt or ever been. I think when I've been on air.
I've heard you don't normally wear this when you go on air.
I never wear this. Never wear this. No, I've had to brush my hair and everything this morning. Jeez, there's a few problems I think in my wardrobe today. Yeah.
Welcome to my world. Is what I always have to do. But yeah, like you're going to be on board now with the new Virgin Sport Media, and we're really looking forward to a really exciting season. Hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. Do you want me to give the big sell now? Is that what it is? Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, the lads are going to take the piss out of me when they see this. You know that.
Obviously, it won't be as exciting as to talk about it on Off the Ball.
Yes,
but in the meantime, if somehow you feel the need to go to a TV station, you're the guys we should go to.
Yes, I think that's it. I think it is exciting times. Generally, I do believe that. I think we've got a lot of games across the course of the season. Every Champions League game, of course. Every Europa League game. And I think the way that it went last season, the way that Liverpool performed, the way that, of course, City were performing in the Premier League, I think we'll hopefully see Premier League sides go well this season as well. I wouldn't be too sure of Man United. Tottenham probably the unexpected as well. So I think I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good season. Yeah, I think it will be again. I think Liverpool in general, though, if you did watch them, certainly Roma were a surprising semi-finalist, I think, last season. The way they beat Man City were quite rightly favourites last season, I think, with the calibre of football that they were playing in the group stages, the way that they were playing early on in the Premier League. And I think they were undone with Liverpool's just high-tempo football, the way that they played. So I think, in answer to your question there, I do think we will see a period of domination from Premier League sides, just with the finances that's available. I think logic tells you that will be the case. Barcelona, I don't feel as though that they've strengthened sufficiently enough to suggest to me that they're actually going to go and be a serious threat. I might be proved wrong on that one as well, particularly with Coutinho being available to them this season. Real Madrid losing Ronaldo, might that now be Juventus's gain, that they might actually be a little bit stronger with having him in the side as well? There's one or two stories. I said before, I think Atletico Madrid, I think keeping some of the key players that they have done, I think signing one or two big players as well for them. I think Atletico might be a decent outside shout for this Champions League this season. Yeah.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.
OTB AM.